Hello, everyone. Welcome to another
Hello.
episode of Electric Live. Joining me is Bofner, my resident Darius. Oh, sorry, everyone. All right, my resident Darius enthusiast. How's it going?
I'm doing great. I'm so stoked to talk about Darius. Oh my god.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be fun to begin by introducing you a little bit to the audience. So I first came across Bofner off a Reddit post on the old Shmup Reddit, and it was one of your very first reviews, and I thought, oh, this guy's got a great style. This guy's got a fun personality and like a nice little sense of humor that, you know, shmups, sometimes people are very serious in the genre of shmup, so I always liked the more lighthearted feel. And I can't remember, what was your very first video? Was it Darius?
It was, yeah. My very first video was Darius Gaiden. Yeah, a review of Darius Gaiden. that was I think two and a half years ago now, a while ago.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy how much time flies?
Yeah. I just last week got to the point where I can be a YouTube partner now, which is crazy. So that was super exciting.
Yeah, I can't remember. It took me a while. It took me about 2 years to get that as well from the podcast. Had I not done a SoundCloud, I probably would have got it much sooner. So, lesson learned there. But anyway, yeah. Also, since it's Electric Live chat, feel free to weigh in. Press 1 if you all are tuning in. It should be live, but I always get a little bit paranoid.
Yeah, let me hop in that so I can read the chat too. Good idea.
So I thought today we're going to cover a lot of the Darius series, especially the earlier games because, oh yeah, we got a one. Thank you, my dude. Yes. Okay. So let's begin by talking about the history of Darius a little bit from the very beginning, you know, Taito, all that stuff. I'm a little bit fuzzy on some of the details, but I'm hoping you've got some answers for me.
Yeah, I know a little bit. I'm not a huge Taito expert. I know that they, like, their first big game, I mean, maybe they had something big before this, but I mean, they made Space Invaders, which
right is like the shmup.
Yeah, it's
the
like
shmup.
It's like one of the first games ever. You know, like so they made that. That was early though. Darius didn't come till way later. I don't know when Space Invaders came out. It might have even been the 70s.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact date, but it's considered the very first shmup, right? Most people consider it the very first.
Maybe. Yeah, but Darius, the first Darius was an arcade game. I think it was 86 or 87. And it was super weird because there were a couple of different machines that Taito made that had the 3 monitors.
Oh, really?
Crazy.
Before Darius?
Yeah. I think there was. Don't quote me on this. I think Ninja Warrior might have come out before Darius. They came out around the same time, and it also had 3 monitors.
Oh, so this was a thing.
I think they might have had another one too. Yeah. So yeah, I think it did because I think they might have converted some of the Ninja Warrior cabinets into Darius cabinets later on, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, they had this crazy trick where they would have these 3 monitors that you wouldn't look at the monitors. You would look at like a mirror that was reflecting them.
Yes,
so that,
right.
Because you know on CRTs they have the space at the edges.
Yeah, the bezels.
You just kind of have to have that, yeah. And so they would have these mirrors so that you had a seamless image going across. From what I understand, there was still like maybe like a line that was there that kind of separated.
Yeah,
the 3
have
images.
You seen a Darius cab before? I've seen one in person.
Never.
Before.
No.
Yeah, there is a little bit of you can kind of tell it's 3 different screens. At least the one that I was using, maybe like a really good one from like right off the press or whatever would have been hard to tell. But what I could tell is you could tell because one of them was a little bit sharper, one of them was a little bit darker. There's like slight changes in the quality of the image between the 3. But I mean, it's still really impressive, and it's definitely functional. You can.
It's so cool, yeah. It's they even like I know a lot of people like scan lines so much that they'll have those scan line filters when they play games. In the Cosmic Collection on the first and second Darius game, you can actually have those lines show up artificially.
Right. Yes.
Which is kind of interesting for the people who grew up with just hours and hours and hours on those physical arcade machines. They might prefer to have those lines because maybe they like line up the ship at certain parts to know where to sit.
Yeah, I'm surprised
the
I ever
bosses.
saw a Darius cabinet. I think the arcade I went to that had it, it was kind of like a retro themed arcade, like a throwback arcade. And so
This was in the US?
yeah. So they were
Wow.
probably, they got it specifically because it's nifty and cool,
It's
because
cool.
it was one of the few shmups they had at the arcade. But yeah, I got to play OG Darius on the arcade cabinet, which is pretty awesome. I actually hadn't
Did it have
seen
Turbo Fire?
No.
Yeah.
No, it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
I also hadn't seen Darius before this. This was before I knew much about the series.
That was your first time?
Yeah. So I'd seen Darius Gaiden, and Darius Gaiden is basically a 4x3. I never realized about this whole old school giant widescreen aspect ratio. So I remember seeing this and being like, what in the hell is this bullshit? Like, why is the aspect ratio so massive? And people on the stream can see I put a little clip of just the Cosmic Collection. It's hilarious if you play the Cosmic Collection on handheld and you play Darius in the correct.
I'm not gonna lie, it's not good.
You know what they need to make a little attachment for the Sega Game Gear had this magnifying attachment. They need to make that for the Switch so you can play Darius on it. It was like this tiny little stamp. Yeah.
You can don't do this, but there's an option to make it fit the screen.
Yeah.
It's terrible though because it's just so warped that your movement going sideways feels so slow, and then you fly up and down because the aspect ratio is just totally ruined.
Yeah, this was a lesson that I learned kind of early on in shmups where I was trying to play. I think it was Dodonpachi actually. In the incorrect aspect ratios early on, where I was like, "Oh, I'll play it in 16:9. Why not?" Yoko. And I learned, well, okay, this isn't gonna work. So it is interesting. Shmups are one of those genres where you've got to nail that aspect ratio. You have to basically do. Yeah. You can sometimes wiggle it here and there. Sometimes I'll do that on the Switch, but for the most part, you want to stay as faithful to the aspect ratio because it'll change your movement, sort of perception and all that, and perception of the bullets. Bullets will move incredibly slowly or incredibly fast, but it's just weird when you change the aspect ratio.
Yeah, it can. There's so many subtle things that your average player might not think about, and also just on another interesting thing is this is kind of getting away from the history, but in the second Darius game, I don't think they normalized the movement vectors. So you move front and backwards at let's call it ×1 speed, and you move up and down at ×1 speed, but the vectors aren't normalized. So if you go diagonal, you're not moving diagonally at ×1 speed, you're moving diagonally at 1.25 or whatever those don't normalize to.
That's how Grega does
faster diagonally.
Yeah, that's like Grega.
It's interesting. It's some games don't do that, and then some do.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's.
I think we had a whole.
Do you have a preference as to that?
I think we had a whole debate on this at some point, maybe in Discord or on the Euro Shmup episode. I can't remember, but some people like Boghog are not for that. They do not like that unfixed diagonal. For me, I kind of feel like it is a bit of a design choice. Fixed jumps in Castlevania where it has certain advantages. So I actually like it in Grega. And the reason why I like it in Grega is it gives you the option to catch those metals faster than you could if you're trying to move horizontally. And actually in Cave and Dodonpachi, if people don't know, you move slightly slower diagonally in Dodonpachi than you would doing cardinal directions. So there's times when you're chaining in Dodonpachi where if you do this is the really precise chains. If you do the diagonal input, you could drop the chain. So you have to go up and left, distinctly, so you don't drop the chain.
That's wild.
Yeah, but that's only really, really specific cases. I like it for Grega, but it would be a nightmare in Cave games. So I think the overall idea is the more micro dodging focused your game is, the more you need to normalize those. And then if you're like Grega or I like a Darius or something like old school shmup, where you're doing much more macro dodging and stuff, I think you can get away with it. Especially Grega, where you need to zip around the screen all the time and catch metals. So I don't know. I almost wonder if it was intentional on Rising's part to not normalize those to give you a little bit of that input. But you never know, I guess.
Yeah, I mean you know, when you're like a close to or AAA game developer, it must be a conscious decision. You know, it's like with
Right.
Rondo of Blood, the dedicated jump arcs. Like
Yeah.
you can have those as long as your game is built around it. So
I guess
I
the way
assume they
to
must
I guess the way
build
to
the game
test
around
this is to go through Raising's library and see if they have any shmup anywhere that has normalized diagonals.
Yeah.
And see if they ever change that or not. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting thing.
So I want to get your opinion on something with Darius 1.
Mm-hmm.
Because this might be, we're not at hot take section yet, but this might be a little bit of a hot take for me. I kind of feel like the super widescreen aspect ratio, all things considered, is much more of a gimmick than an actual, like, oh, this is a really good idea for shmups to give them this massive widescreen aspect ratio. But what do you think?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. My friend Pandemonium, he's just a quick shout out to his channel. He's reviewing every single North American Sega Saturn game. He's a huge Darius fan as well, and he's a huge fan of the widescreen.
Oh, is
and he like went to Japan and was like so happy that he was able to play like the 2-screen Darius 2 arcade version because he loves that. I don't love it.
I think 2-screen is much more reasonable than the 3-screen.
2 is almost like 16:9. I think it's a little bit longer. Yeah.
But the 3-screener is, I think, kind of absurd. It's cool, but it's kind of absurd because I just don't know. The level design feels very unbalanced to me as far as it doesn't quite feel like the 3-screen aspect ratio works that well with the first Darius game because your ship moves pretty slow, all things considered. Yeah.
And you can only have 5 shots at once. So if you get pushed all the way to the back and you hammer out your 5 shots and they're not hitting anything, you just gotta sit there. And then if you get the laser or the wave and you're shooting from the back, even if they hit stuff, they still have to go all the way to the edge of the screen. And you're just still protected. So
another thing too
brutal.
That's really weird is you can kind of get into these tennis situations where in most shmups, when you aim at something, you aim at it and then you shoot at it. But with Darius, if you're way back at the back, sometimes you have to aim above it and hope they fly into it. You know what I mean? It's like, this is a little silly.
It's tough. I don't love it. I don't know what the general consensus is on that though.
I don't either. I bet my guess would be, just knowing shmup people, some people will defend it to the death. They'll say this is brilliant, this is amazing, and then there's other people who will hate it and despise it and say it's stupid. And I'm amused by it, so I don't hate it because I do think it's kind of a fun, nifty little idea. And someone did try it, but I don't think it's like the big selling point for the series. You know, like if I'm going to tell someone to play Darius, it's not going to be, that massive widescreen aspect ratio is just so cool. You got to play it.
Yeah, that's not the reason I play it. I play Darius because I like, I play Darius Gaiden when I want to play Darius because it's just a freaking good game. It's, I wouldn't want to play that game in ultra mega widescreen.
Yeah.
Except maybe like the Titanic Lance battle. That would be kind of cool to have in mega widescreen.
Yeah, I'm just thinking how, let's say you kept this idea of this massive widescreen aspect ratio. I wonder how you would evolve that as time went on.
Well, so
like how would
Darius
that turn out?
First has ultra widescreen.
Does
it? The 2-screen aspect ratio. Well, okay, so hold on. Oh god. If we're gonna get into Darius Burst, so
not
there's
yet. We can wait for Darius Burst.
Yeah, let's wait.
We'll get to Darius Burst.
Actually, there's the reason I'm like saying it like this is there's like 6 different versions of Darius Burst, and they're all they have like significant differences. And
I know
them all. I've researched it. I've been meaning to make a video on it, but we'll get there later. We're talking about the first one now.
Yeah. So overall, outside the aspect ratio, what do you think the first Darius does right? What is its strong suit for the era? For the era especially.
For the era.
Because, you know, we
what
can
else
look
is of
back
that
on
era?
it.
R-Type?
Yes, like older ones, so R-Types and Gradius, basically. There's other ones
I
too,
don't...
but for most people, like most casual fans, you know, the two series they're gonna know are R-Type and Gradius, you know, of this era.
Yeah.
So I always like to compare. I always like to think in the old school shmup pantheon, there's three big hitters. There's Gradius, which I think is the most important. You know, I guess that's another hot take. And then R-Type, and then Darius. And you can go back and forth whether R-Type or Darius is better. But I always think of those
I think
like
R-Type definitely has bigger appeal than Darius does.
Yeah, yeah.
At least the first game.
Popularity-wise, I think it's very solid, right? Gradius, most popular. R-Type, and then Darius is definitely the little brother of the three.
Yeah, for sure.
It would be interesting to see if they make a new Darius and they did a Kickstarter, what that reaction would be like. If people would go as nuts for it as R-Type, or if they'd be like, the shmup fans, of course, would love it, but I mean like regular Kotakus and all the return of Darius, the series that's been, you know, shackled away. It's returning, you know, or whatever it is.
Have you ever made a video on Darius before?
I don't know. Darius has been in almost every single shmup slam, though, so I feel like I represent the series actually quite a bit because it's in every slam. Almost every time there's a Darius game. And so I don't think I have, though. I wrote a review for Cosmic Review, though. I wrote a written review for Cosmic Collection, and I gave it a very high score.
Yeah, because if you make videos and you say the word Darius the way that we have been saying it, you will inevitably get comments of people saying it's pronounced Darius.
Oh, which isn't like the Gradius Gradius type stuff.
I don't know which one's right on that.
I know Jamers.
Right?
In the last
Japanese.
What was it? The Shoot the Baguette. I asked Jamers in the Gradius one, so everyone go back and watch the Gradius one. Jamers was on and I asked him and he gave us the correct pronunciation. It's not Gradius, I'll tell you that, but you know what?
Yeah.
You know what? I want to start doing this thing where, like, you know when you used to say Ryu back in the day and everyone's like, it's not Ryu, it's Ryu, and then like, it's not
or
Pokemon.
Gaiden, Darius Gaiden.
It's not Pokemon, it's Pokemon or whatever. Like, there comes a point where, you know, maybe our American pronunciations, you can defend them a little bit. Like, can't I call it Gradius and Darius? Do I have to always conform to the Japanese way of saying things?
Yeah, that's the other thing too. I've been learning Japanese for the past year-ish, so like I will have words that I say differently in each language. Like I'm not gonna walk around saying karaoke in English.
Right, exactly.
No one says that. I'm gonna say karaoke.
Point being, I'm gonna say Darius, and you can't stop me. That's the point of that rant. You can't stop me. So
if I go to Japan and I talk to people about Darius, I will say Darius, but not here.
So we talked about Darius 1. What one of the? We didn't get into it, do we? So
I don't think I said what I liked about it yet.
What do you like about Darius 1 gameplay wise?
Yeah, so what I think it does well, I think was exactly what you had asked. I think the first game, the way that they handled the power-ups was really good. I think R-Type and Gradius do it well too. Actually, I haven't played. To be honest, this is maybe a hot take. I don't love Gradius. I think I just need to play it more.
That is a hot take. How dare you?
I'll go back and play it. So don't quote me on that.
I'm sorry, everyone. We've lost Bofner. We've lost him. He's been canceled. He's been canceled from the show.
Question.
I'm just teasing.
I'm just teasing. And Salamander, are those the?
They're like sibling games. They're sibling games. Yeah, they're both from Konami. Salamander is the one where it's horizontal sometimes, then other times it flips to vertical. Yeah. And then the power-up system is actually more like Darius. So Salamander has this sort of Darius-ish power-up system where you collect items.
You just grab stuff.
Yeah. And Gradius has this, you know, like you gain power-up items, but then you cash them out in your bar. Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have played Gradius 3. Gradius 3 is hot. It's so slow. I love it.
So the thing about the Gradius versus Darius power-up system, this is a great topic actually, is when things are going really well, I like the Gradius system the most. Like when you're en route Everything's going nicely. You're choosing your power-ups. You're like, oh, I'm going to use an option. Oh, I'm going to use a laser. Oh, I'm going to save my power-up. It's time to speed up. But after you die in Gradius, then the power-up system goes to shit because you're screwed.
Yeah. And no matter what, you get sent back to basics, right?
Yeah, you get sent back to basics, and you have to like fight for a speed up, and then you have to sit there and try and whittle your way back. Whereas in Salamander, you could just pick up an option, you know, which is really nice. So recovery, I think, in Salamander is much better because of that. But being on route in Darius and Gradius, I think, is more satisfying because you can always route it out exactly how you want. It'll do exactly what you want. Where in Salamander, you know, maybe you don't get an option item for a while or whatever.
I think one thing, if there's one thing that Darius does better than both R-Type and Gradius, it's not having speed power-ups. Because
thank you, Darius.
Just makes makes a huge difference.
Yes, it does.
Oh man, honestly though, ever since I started playing Zero Ranger, my idea of what makes a good shoot 'em up has totally changed because that game totally changed my world. But
it's a great, it borrows from so many different shmups. I would be shocked if there was not some sort of Darius element in there somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, there's a giant crab.
Yeah, there's a giant crab.
I think there is a deliberate Darius reference, but I can't remember it off the top of my head right now. But yeah, no speed power-ups. I really like that when you die after you've gotten the laser or after you've gotten the wave, you get sent back to basic laser or basic wave.
Right, yes.
That's really
nice.
That's nice. I don't like... So this is kind of just how I feel about most shoot-'em-ups in general. I tend to prefer the console ports because they're usually a little more forgiving, at least like the late 80s, early 90s games when they had to like port it onto way inferior hardware.
Like the NES port of Gradius.
Yeah,
Darius and all that stuff.
I think that's the only version of Gradius I've played, but I did like that one. But yeah, it's hard. Like when you die once in Gradius, it's like it's over.
It's over.
You just
Gradius
turn off the game.
Yeah, I like recovery in Darius a lot more. The power-up system is really cool too.
The branching paths also is the coolest thing ever. I don't think they did the branching paths quite perfectly until Gaiden though, because there's hardly any difference between the paths in the first one. I mean, the levels are different, but all the bosses are the same.
Interesting.
And that's kind of the thing that sticks out in my mind, at least.
Right.
So yeah, it's like every time, the first stage, it's always the same level. The second stage, either one, you're going to be fighting Electric Fan. The third one, I forget who it is, but you're always fighting them. Same with everything until the very last, and then you don't have 7 different bosses though. Z and V are both repeated. So there's actually I think that's only 5. There's 5 different bosses. Or is that right? Yeah, 5 different bosses, and then 2 of them are repeated for the 5 final bosses in the first Darius game, which is coming off of Darius Gaiden, I wasn't expecting that, and so I was a little disappointed when I found that out.
Right.
But
though, I mean, again, for the era, I mean, the Darius 1 boss fights are amazing. It's like, especially the designs, like the giant sea animals and stuff. It's just so much more memorable and cool than even the bosses and Gradius.
They have such good names.
Yeah, they do.
Such like poorly translated good names. I think there's some Darius game where Red Crab was mistranslated. I might be making this up. I might have dreamt this, but I could have sworn I played one where Red Crab was Red Crub.
Oh, nice.
That is in my mind, but I haven't been able to find it again. But yeah, they initially did want to do 26 different bosses for the first Darius, but they didn't have time to do it.
Yeah, I could see that being a hurdle.
Project.
And if you look at like Gradius, you basically get the same boss over and over and over. It's the same one. It's just angrier each time.
Yeah, so having a different boss for every level then even is cool.
And then the branching paths. That's like twice the game right there.
Yeah, I mean, more than that. It's like 3 times.
3 times the game, right? Yeah.
7 levels, and there's 28 26 different levels in the first one, but there are 28. So I mean, I've always wanted to do the math out. How many possible combinations, how many possible different runs could you do in a Darius game that has the 28 stages? I haven't sat down and done it yet.
Yeah.
I don't exactly know where to start with that.
A lot.
It's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. It's more than 28.
So another thing that I thought that the first Darius did really well is I liked the weapon system in the game. We talked about that a little bit before, where like the wave attack and the bombs, the way the bombs work, and just sort of the overall enemy layouts I thought were really fun. The parts that get weird though is just because the level is so massive, there's times where it kind of feels empty because there's just all this screen and not a lot of stuff to fill it up. But I could see that being a hardware problem. Or not, I'm not sure, but yeah.
I don't know, because I assume it's probably a sprite limitation thing.
Yeah, right.
Because if you have, usually the way those things work, I did a little
Come on, OBS. Here it comes.
Okay,
it's back.
Yeah, looks like we're back.
Hey, sorry about that, everyone. Internet's fighting up, acting up here. But we're talking about, you were leaving off on the Sega. You did some programming with the sprite limit.
Yeah, the master system. Yeah, the way that sprite limitations often work is it's horizontal, so you can only have a certain number of sprites horizontally before they start flickering all over the place.
Right.
So that could be why they had that limit. And when you have 3 screens worth of real estate,
right,
you got a lot more horizontal room that you have to be careful about.
So, I think that's pretty much all I had to say about the first Darius.
Yeah, it's
another
right.
thing is,
I think
didn't
the
it have
ports are better.
Yeah, didn't it have a bajillion console ports of some kind?
It had 3 console ports on the PC Engine by itself.
Yeah.
It had the CD version, it had the Hue card version, and then it had a like limited edition. If you bought both the Hue card and the CD, you could mail out to get Darius Alpha.
Nice.
Which is on the Cosmic Collection, which is just a boss rush mode essentially. But it goes for like thousands of dollars online because there was only like 800 that were made.
That's really crazy. And I guess nowadays, if we're going to recommend playing Darius 1 now, I would say the Cosmic Collection's the way to go, probably.
Yeah. If you wanted to play the arcade version, the only thing I don't like about the arcade version compared to, I think, literally every other console port is that when you die, you get sent back to a checkpoint.
Whereas in the consoles you don't?
In the consoles you don't. I don't think in any of the console ports you get sent back. I think you always get to move forward.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Which is kind of big difference.
It's a big difference, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's also a Game Boy Advance port that's not.
Oh, great. I've heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's not a port. It's
kind of like a remake. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all right. I really don't love it, but it's also kind of fun. It has a lot of vertical screen scrolling, like a lot. I know people don't like the PC Engine version because it has a little bit, like it's really not that noticeable. I don't think it's that bad on the PC Engine. On the Game Boy Advance, though, it's really bad. You're scrolling like half the screen vertically.
That's weird. Like you're going up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like zoomed in, right? It's like cropped in.
It's like zoomed in.
Up and down. Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
That's not good.
No. But if I had to pick just one version of Darius, the first one, it would definitely be the Mega Drive Genesis version, the physical cart. Because if you have a Mega Drive or Genesis Mini, that version's good, but the physical cart actually, they updated it so it has a couple different modes. So it has the extra mode, so you can play. I don't know all the differences between extra and old versions. I think they balanced the bosses a little bit differently in extra version, and so you can play the extra version on the Genesis. And it also continues kind of built in, unless you get to the last level, in which case you don't get to continue. And you also get reset back to full when you continue. So it's not quite how like the Darius Gaiden continues work in the Saturn port, but It's definitely my favorite version of
Is
Darius
that in the
1.
Cosmic Collection in like one of the extra bonus DLC packs or whatever it is?
So it's in a very specific version of Cosmic Revelation.
Oh my gosh,
in Japan
Taito.
only.
Come on, Taito. Why are you doing this?
It's like Sagaya on Game Boy was only available to people in Japan who had Amazon Prime accounts and ordered it on like a 36-hour period on Prime weekend or something in like July of 2019 or something, or 2018.
I don't know why they do this stuff. I guess maybe there's some kind of method to the madness as far as getting more sales, but yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Darius games are kind of... A lot of people think the Cosmic Collection and Revelation are expensive, which...
They are.
I mean, they kind of are.
They are. That's why. I mean, this is one of those things where they're hitting two fan bases simultaneously, but they're cutting out the middle fan base. So they're hitting the hardcore players who love Darius and will pay out the nose because they love Darius, and the port is
that's me.
And the port is I'm in that too, and the port is excellent. I mean, if it was a bad port, I would have hammered it just like I did the Psycho ports, but it's not. It's actually a really excellent port. They're just being stinkers about how they're selling it to you. But then it also hits the collector crowd who probably don't care all that much about shmups, but shmups are a very collector-loved genre. Collectors love to collect them because they're rare and all that sort of thing. So I can see collectors getting into it. But the middle sort of like casual buyers, they get a little bit left in the cold. So for them, I always recommend just get the arcade release of Darius Cosmic Collection, which is basically just the main hitters, Gaiden and all those ones.
Yeah, because you do get Gaiden. Yeah, the only problem is, like, if we want to start talking about Darius 2, I don't know. If you're
let's
a
talk about
player,
Darius 2. Let's swap over to Darius 2. Here we go.
Yeah, so if you're a casual player, I think the console ports of Darius 2 are much more approachable. The Darius 2 is really hard.
Yes, you were saying
really
that.
Difficult. Yeah, I haven't beaten it. I've played it a lot, but I haven't. Maybe I've beaten it. I haven't 1cc'd it, I guess I should say. Because it's brutal. It has that same problem that Gradius has. It's when you die, there's nothing you can do. You lose everything. And there are special power-ups that'll show up later on in the game that will bump you up a couple extra levels as opposed to just a single. It'll give you, so instead of just let's talk about Darius to how it because it totally changes everything. It's totally different from the original one.
Really?
They kept
Oh,
the
wow.
way that all the power-ups and everything, it's like a totally different game almost. It's still got the branching paths. It's got the ultra-wide screen, but it's been reduced to 2 screens.
Yeah.
Although apparently a 3-screen version exists too.
Oh boy.
Which sounds insane. But so the way that the power-ups work, so in the first one it was like you had 3 distinct points. You had your bullets that would, start off with shooting 1, then 2, then 3. And then you'd go to a laser that just kept getting longer. And then you'd get to a wave which would get taller and would pass through objects and enemies. So the laser would just pass through enemies. Then in Darius 2, they totally changed it. And it's, you always have, it's just a different weapon. You have a laser, but it doesn't work the same way that Darius 1 laser works.
Yeah, it's showing it on screen where it's like shooting straight up above you, it looks like, right?
So there's your forward-facing lasers, and then you also there's an entirely new power-up that is lasers, which shoot up and down.
Yeah.
And then when you get another, they shoot forwards diagonally, and then you can get them shooting backwards and then up. And then if you get them all the way powered up, you can eventually get all 3 of those different angles to just shoot diagonally and then forward. Those are really strong. But so every power-up you get in Darius 2 is pretty much objectively better, whereas in the original Darius, for example, you might want to hold off on upgrading to the laser if you haven't fought Fatty Glutton yet, because you really need the bullets will reset. You can shoot again when you hit Fatty Glutton himself, which is super helpful because you really need to suppress his children that he's throwing at you. So if you have the laser, it's a super difficult fight. Whereas in Darius 2, you just want to get every power up you can.
Yeah, it sounds like they figured out. I was just talking about. It sounds like they fixed the weapon balancing in Darius 2 a little better because the idea is that you want to continually power up, and so like in Darius 1, having to avoid certain power up upgrades at certain times probably isn't that great weapon balance. So it sounds like they sort of figured out the weapon balance a little better in Darius 2.
Yeah, it depends, I guess. I personally really like that. I love the having to pick when to upgrade your weapons, especially since it's like, if you're going into the Fatty Glutton fight and you have no shield, and you're one weapon power up from the laser, you might want to just risk a more difficult fight to get the laser so that when you die, you'll have the laser, as opposed to like going into the fight with something that you'll die with and get sent all the way back to the beginning.
Right.
So it's kind of like a mind game. Whereas Darius 2, it's just you always want to get them.
What are some other level design changes in Darius 2? I'm just looking at the footage here, and it looks like the density of the enemy patterns is a lot higher. Like there's more
much
crap.
Higher. Yeah,
more crap on screen flying at you.
Yeah, there's a lot more on screen. The way that you get power-ups is different too. In the first Darius game, you shoot a different colored enemy in one of the swarms, and that one enemy will drop your power up.
Yeah.
Whereas in Darius 2, you have to shoot down these specific pods, and if you miss even a single pod, you don't get the power up. You have to shoot down the entire cluster of them, which means if you die later on in the game and you get set back to the beginning, it's really hard to get powered back up again because you have less firepower, and enemies are going to be getting in front of the pods, and if you miss just one of them, you can't upgrade. So it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal at late game if you die.
Kaio made an interesting point. So Kaio was saying that he doesn't feel that. Maybe I'm behind on the comments too. So Kaio, if I'm misrepresenting your comment, clarify here. He was saying that he didn't feel that Darius 2 was necessarily harder than Darius 1, but he felt it was less forgiving. And in my opinion, I know where he's coming from. I see the technicality there.
I see it, yeah.
But in my opinion, that equals it is harder. So, for example, in Dodonpachi, let's say they changed the way the chaining system works, where they just made chaining more forgiving, and they left everything else the same. They left all the stuff the same. I would say that the chaining has become less hard because forgiveness goes a long way in this genre, for sure, where if you die and have to reset, that's difficult. Whereas if you die and you have 2 or 3 more chances to recover, that's less difficult. I see what he means. Like, it sounds like he's saying the base bullet patterns, the base enemy designs aren't necessarily that much harder, but the sort of meta of it, where you can't recover, is harder. What do you think about that? Because I'm not an expert on Darius 2 at all.
Yeah, so it depends. So I'm when I think of Darius, I think of the Genesis version, which, if I'm gonna be thinking about the arcade version is really hard, because if you die on a boss, you have to start that whole boss fight over again, and you are powered down.
Yes.
So you're really not in a good position if you die on a boss. If you can, it's still doable. You can still beat them.
Yeah.
But it's way harder. But in Darius 2, you do get reset back to absolutely no weapon power-ups, but you don't get set back to a checkpoint, so you can, if you're using 30 hertz auto fire, you can abuse that and use your iframes to get right up into the enemy and just tear through the boss, even if you die. So it's tough to say. I don't think I've ever beaten the arcade version of Darius either, because I really do spend most of the time on the console ports, but the
arcade version is hard. I was playing it last night to collect footage.
Yeah.
Just to collect footage. And I was like, I'm getting beaten down trying to collect this footage here. So, yeah it is hard.
Yeah. I've beaten the Genesis version, like, back and forth. I think I've beaten every zone. Maybe I missed one, but I've won CC'd that game a number of times.
I can't remember.
2,
I think Darius 2 have a Mega Drive or Sega Genesis port?
It does.
Yeah, I've
Darius
played
2
that.
has a million ports. Yeah.
I think I've played that port, and I actually kind of liked it. I kind of enjoyed it.
It's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. It has the same problem of resetting you, but there's one big difference, at least to me. In the arcade version of Darius, your ship moves at almost, I think it's the exact same speed as most enemy bullets. So if you're trying to back up away from bullets, it's not really doing anything except giving you more time to think about where you should be going, because they're the same distance from you. But in the Genesis version, you actually move faster than most enemy bullets.
Oh,
so
maybe that's why I like the feel of it. Yeah, maybe that's why I like the feel of it.
It's such a Genesis game. Oh
yes,
my God.
It is. It's very Genesis.
It's such a late 80s, early 90s Genesis game. The graphics are like so just of that era. They're like
that chunky Genesis graphical style.
Chunky, yeah. And the sound is like kind of tinny. It's I love it. It's like bad in a good way. I love it.
That one is on the Cosmic Collection as well. That's where I played it, so I know that's on there.
Yeah, the Japanese and the American version, which are pretty much the same except for the text. I think that you might not be able to enter cheat codes in the American version, I think.
Oh.
So there's something weird like that you can't do.
Yeah, they didn't want you beating it from Blockbuster.
Right, because
that's the whole history of that. I was wondering why on the early era of Western ports, why Western ports were typically harder or sometimes harder than the Japanese ports. And the reason was, from what I understand, is because they hated our freaking Hollywood Video and Blockbuster, and they're like, this is basically stealing, so we're gonna punish you and make it harder for you to beat the game in a weekend. We want you to buy the game and have to work to play it. So
that's what I've heard. Like Contra Hardcore, same way.
Yeah,
in
Ninja
Japan,
Gaiden 2.
3 hits.
Ninja Gaiden 2. That one, the Western version of Ninja Gaiden 2 is like significantly harder than the Japanese version.
I've only ever played the first Ninja Gaiden game. I've never beaten it though.
I think that one's pretty similar across the board. I remember it was 2, I think, the one where they're like, they changed. It was the way the life system worked. Like you couldn't continue or something. I can't remember, but it was like significantly harder.
I mean, this isn't because of rentals, but and this is kind of off topic, but the NES version of Castlevania, you could save, like, in the Japanese version because it was on the disc system.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy because it's not a long game. But you couldn't do that on the cartridge. What were we saying about Darius 2?
We're talking about the different ports of
difficulty. The different ports.
Difficulty and the different ports.
So there's a million different ports. There's the Genesis port, which is really good. I used to say it was my favorite until I played Super Darius 2, which is the PC Engine port. A lot of people don't like that.
I thought it was going to be a SNES port. Is that Super in the name?
No, it's the PC Engine Super CD, I think is why it's Super Darius 2.
Yeah, I get it.
A lot of people don't like that version, and I understand why. It's kind of janky. And it has that screen scrolling that I was talking about.
Yeah, where it's zoomed in.
On the Game Boy version. It's not nearly as bad as the Game Boy game, but it is noticeable and it does mess you up. Sometimes enemies will spawn above where you can actually see them, and it's specifically this one kind of enemy that spawns in the middle of the screen and then rushes you.
Oh, damn.
And so when those spawn where you can't see them and then just fly at you, you know, that's not really fair. But in that game, when you die, you don't go back to 0. And honestly, that one change makes such a difference.
Really?
It makes
so
it,
do you reset your power-ups just a little bit, or how does it?
Yeah, you just drop down. I think it drops everything down by 1, I believe. So your lasers will like go down by 1 level. Your bombs go down by 1 level, and then your vertical lasers go down by 1 level. So it's way more manageable. They also added a ton of bosses. It's pretty much an entirely different game. They like moved bosses around, made some bosses into mini bosses, added entirely new bosses, totally redid all of the music. If you haven't played that game and you like Darius 2, definitely, even if you hate it, it's still fun just to like see how different it is. And then the Saturn version,
you could probably play that on the Mister. I'm assuming, right? PC Engine and everything.
If you can play PC Engine CD, yeah, you should be able to.
Yeah.
You can.
Because you can.
If you if you can, you could definitely do that. Yeah, I'm not gonna say it because I think it's illegal, but I have played it before.
Naughty.
Yeah.
This channel does not ever participate in that kind of activity, Bofner.
Yeah.
We don't do that sort of thing here.
Yeah.
We don't.
No,
we don't use emulators or misters.
No.
Official PCBs only. Actually, I mean, we just allowed console ports like last month. We had a meeting.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, okay, we'll accept console ports, but other than that, everything on this channel has been 100% official PCBs, licensed by the developers. That's the only content we discuss here.
Yeah, my basement is actually just
it's
chock
all
full of actual cabinets.
Yes. Yeah. That, whenever I use something on my computer, I always have to run downstairs and grab the PCB and plug it in just to make sure.
Oh, such a hassle, right?
Yeah, no, such a pain.
Yeah, there's also a Saturn port, which is, until the Switch version came out, it was probably the closest thing to Arcade Perfect.
Oh, interesting.
Because it has that widescreen,
right?
Which makes it looks awful. I'm not gonna lie, it looks terrible.
Is it just like a little? So did they mess with the aspect ratio, or did they letterbox it?
They letterboxed it.
Oh, so it's just like this
little slice. It's really chunky. But you can use the L and R buttons to zoom in to get the full thing, which is kind of insane.
That's kind of a cool idea.
But then you can only see, half the screen. And you can't really play that way. So
that's interesting. So that means they had to build a camera system for it.
So the Saturn does have scaling.
Or Saturn,
So they might have just
did that.
Scaled
Yeah,
everything.
they did the scaling.
I don't know how intense that is, but that sounds really computationally expensive for the Saturn. I don't know. Saturn's weird, man.
What a weird. The thing about the Saturn, from what I understand, is it was like they built this 2D powerhouse. Saturn experts will always, come in with like the exact knowledge, but from what I understand, they built this 2D powerhouse, and then they looked over at the PlayStation. The PlayStation's just it's this 3D powerhouse that's gonna take over all the arcades, and they're like, shit, okay, we need to add 3D now. So they just threw 3D on top of it. That's how I've always sort of understood the Saturn works, right? Like it's basically two consoles shoved together.
Yeah, it does do 3D well when it does it well, though. There's this hot game I just found recently called Bulk Slash. It's like a 3D mech game. It's crazy.
Oh, cool.
If you've never heard of it, you should it's like a cross between like Tokimeki Memorial and Ghost in the Shell on PlayStation 1, because you like pick up pick up girls along the way, and they affect what ending you get.
And you ride around in a little mech and shoot things? Is it a rail shooter, or is it like an arena type thing?
It's 3D. They like have these maps that are made, and then you just like walk around or fly around the maps. It's
kind of like Mech Assault? Did you ever play Mech Assault? Is it like that?
No, this is the only like mech 3D. This is the first 3D mech game I've ever played, and I'm like gonna get into that genre now because
you gotta play Mech Assault on the Xbox.
Mech Assault?
Yeah, on the Xbox.
I don't have an Xbox.
Do you have a 360?
No, I have. I wonder if one 360 game.
Chat, weigh in here. Are there any ports of Mech Assault? That was one of my favorite 3D mech games growing up. I played it for hours. But yeah,
I gotta write this down.
Mech Assault.
Where's Mech?
Mm-hmm. Me and my brother. It has like this deathmatch mode. Me and my brother would spend hours playing deathmatch mode.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. It's on the OG Xbox.
Yes. There's Mech Assault 2 as well.
Could...
I would be shocked. I would be shocked if there wasn't any sort of re-release somehow. I'd be shocked.
I'll look into it because it's fun. This game though is pretty much like what a shmup would be in 3D. Yeah.
It's interesting. Is it kind of like?
Good.
Have you played Virtual On? Is it like that?
I haven't, but it is like that.
Okay.
It is similar to that. Yeah.
Okay. I can see that.
I do want to play that one at some point too, but Sorry, to get back to Darius, I got distracted. Oh my god, that game's so good.
We're talking about the ports.
There's also
yeah,
there's also a Master System port, which is not very good, but it's so cute. Oh my god, it's so cute. Like, it's also kind of insane. The Master System, having like actual experience programming on the Master System, seeing this game is insane.
Like, why? Why would they even do that port?
Right? It's crazy.
Because can't you?
First level has that crazy fire background that's like so intense, and then they did it on the Master System, and the way that they do it is just so brilliant to me. Because you can't do like that on like you just can't do that. But what you can do is you can scroll a horizontal strip on the Master System at any speed you want. And you can have, however, 8x8 or 8 by screen width strips. You can have each of those scroll independently of each other.
Oh, and if you do that, how they did
you can imitate that waving fire, and that's how they did it, and it's so cool. Oh my god! But yeah, it's not very fun, unfortunately. It's not a great port.
It just doesn't seem like it has enough horsepower to run the game, you know.
It really doesn't. Also, the lasers, the lasers that shoot up and down, they really aren't that powerful in the Master System version, which is unfortunate because they're really useful in every other version.
Right.
But they just you in general, your ship is just not as strong. Everything takes more hits, I think, in the Master System version than it does in other ones. So it's really difficult.
You know how to. Sounds like you have some experience. Go in there and ROM hack it and add in like 2x damage or something.
I could not do that. Dude,
double the
when
damage.
I say I have experience programming, I'm talking like I got a background scrolling and some sprites on the screen.
Oh, okay. That's like my Super Metroid ROM hack, where I tried to make a Super Metroid ROM hack back in the day, and I got through the first like the space station part. I got that going, but once I got into the overworld, I just every time I tried and do anything significant, I'd crash the game and I never could get it to work.
Yeah, oh my god. Assembly language is just absolutely insane. It's really hard to program in assembly. But learning about the limitations of what stuff can do, I read up on that a lot, anticipating to work on it. And I'd like to work on that kind of stuff more in the future. But I don't have time at the moment.
Yeah, I definitely know what you mean.
Yeah.
So, are there any other ports of Darius 2 that are significant, or are those the main
Darius
ones?
2. I think that's, aside from the Switch port, I think that is all of them. I think that's every port.
Okay.
I don't think it's gotten any late like Game Boy ports or anything. Well, okay, there's the game called Sagaya on the Game Boy, black and white Game Boy, but it is not at all Darius 2. In fact, if it's
some kind of
anything,
creature.
It's closest to Darius 1. Sagaya is the name of Darius 2 internationally for some reason.
It's very confusing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and there's two other ports of Darius 2 to the arcade that are Sagaya that are different. They have fewer branching levels. You do A and then B always, and then you can start branching off.
Oh.
And Master System version 2, I don't think it's exactly like that, but it doesn't have the full 28 stages. It like sort of tapers off like that, I think. Darius Twin on the Super Nintendo is based off of Darius 2, I believe.
Yeah, so I played a little bit of
Darius 2, but
I played a little Darius Twin last night. I've played it a few times over the years because it's the Darius game on the SNES, so I played it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
What do you think about it? At being a Darius, connoisseur.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I first played it, and I haven't played it in a little while, but when I first played it, I wasn't like a big shoot 'em up guy. I had never heard the term 1cc.
Right.
When I beat Darius Gaiden, it was on my last continue on the Saturn. It gives you 3 continues by default.
Right.
And so there are no continues in Darius Twin. So you just like have to 1cc it. You can bump the lives up to 9, which is essentially the same thing.
Right.
So I thought it was really hard because it kind of is hard. at least if you're not used to shoot 'em ups. But when you die, you don't lose anything, which is really weird to me.
Like your power-ups, right? You keep your power-ups.
Yeah, your power-ups. Yeah. Obviously, you don't keep your shield because you would have been hit, so your shield goes away. But all your power-ups, yeah, they stay the same, which is kind of weird.
I guess the idea is to make it more accessible.
Yeah, I guess so. I find it a little boring, though. I really like the way that the first level looks. I think the colors, the beach.
Yeah,
I absolutely love that. Enemies come from behind you on the first level, though, which is kind of tricky.
Yep.
I don't really like that on the first level. I think maybe let me have fun for, a few minutes before you start whooping my ass. But then, the second level is you either go up or down, and then it goes back to 1 again for D. So B and C are up or down, but then both of them lead to D. And B and C are like the exact same level, and they have the same boss.
Interesting.
They're just kind of boring levels too. You're just like in space, and things come at you. I don't know. I don't love Darius Twin. It definitely looks nice though. It's a very pretty Darius game, I think. I mean, SNES is a lot of really good looking games.
Yeah. So the thing about the SNES and SNES shmups is, it gets a reputation for being a kind of a weaker contender in the genre. The SNES. It does have some great shmups on there, but the thing about it that I always, wonder about is almost no one ever mentions Darius Twin, really. Like, so
yeah, I think it's good.
I always wonder if that means it's underwhelming and no one wants to admit it. People just forget it exists, or if it's like a disappointment. Because when I was playing it, I wasn't wowed. I'll tell you that much. I wasn't wowed by any means, but I also just
I think
I'm not as well versed on Darius.
I think what makes it good on the SNES is that it is a 2-player game. The only Darius, I don't know if there's any Darius 1 ports that are 2-player. I think you have to play the arcade to play 2-player.
Oh, interesting.
Darius 2, I think it's just the Saturn and the Switch that are 2-player. I'm pretty sure, yeah. None of the other ones are, just Saturn and Switch. And then, but Darius Twin is 2-player. And 2-player shmups are wild. I always wanted them when I was a kid, because I was a kid and could hang out with people in real life, and it was so fun.
Having 2-player shmups are really fun.
The only one I had was Airbuster for the Genesis, which isn't great. It's fine, but I didn't love it. It's kind of janky. Darius Twin though is pretty solid. My friend has Darius Twin on the SNES. He has like the actual cartridge, and we did have some fun playing that one. It's a fun time. If you have an SNES and you have the cart and you have a friend, oh my god, yeah, I bet that'd be so fun. But compared to Darius Gaiden, I mean,
right.
You can compare a lot of games to Darius Gaiden, and they just don't. It's not as good.
It doesn't hold up. Well, I felt like Darius 2 was much better, personally speaking. And I'm not an expert on Darius 2. I think
Darius 2 is better than Darius Twin, yeah.
Yeah, but I was playing Darius 2.
Yeah, I mean,
it just feels like you're saying Darius Twin isn't a bad game. It's not like I'm going to sit here. It's almost like a certain game I reviewed on this channel where it's not like a travesty or anything. It's just underwhelming. And I kind of feel that way about Darius 2. Or Darius Twin,
weird.
Sorry.
It's
Darius Twin.
The way that Death works is just totally opposite of Darius 2, which is kind of funny because it's like based off of it. They they saw, oh my god, you lose everything? What were we thinking? Let's make them lose nothing when they die. It's kind of weird.
I think the idea was to make it more accessible. Because the SNES,
must have been.
They're probably sitting around thinking, the SNES, this is a bunch of RPG players and bullcrap like that.
Yeah.
Like they've never played they've never played a shmup in their life, so let's take it easy on them and let them keep their power-ups.
It's still pretty hard though. It's not. I've never.
Yeah, it's a hard game. It is hard.
It's brutal too, because most console ports of that era at least would default give you 3 continues, and that one doesn't give you any. So it's like you just die instantly.
Yeah.
And then it's like you're done. Because on that first level, it's so easy to get nicked by an enemy, and then you're out an entire third of your lives.
I have some footage here, and it shows me right at the end, right as I kill the boss just rams into me, and I fly into a bullet, like right as the boss is dying. Yeah, there's a lot of moments like that in Darius Twin.
Yeah, it's just I think I said something like it's Darius Gaiden is more challenging, but Darius Twin is more unforgiving.
I could see that,
you kind of you have no option to continue. Like if you want to practice the game, you know, you just have to get good at it. Which
or Cosmic Collection with save states.
Yeah. Nowadays you could just use save states, or bump up the extra lives to 9 and use save states. Yeah, but back then, there wasn't a lot you could do.
Now we talk about the big one, the big mama,
Darius Gaiden. Oh my god!
So I want to say something about Darius Gaiden that I want to get your input on. Why is it called Gaiden? I've tried to figure this out. There's like nothing Gaiden about this, and I was looking at the development history. Wasn't it just supposed to be Darius 3? And then they're like, is it because they added bombs? They're like, bombs. It's Gaiden now because there's bombs. Like, why is it? Yeah. Because for people who don't know, Gaiden in video game series, it's supposed to be like the offshoot. Like, it's supposed to be significantly different than the mainline series. I found in shmups, usually the Gaiden series for some reason tend to be more interesting almost than the regular series. That tends to happen a lot in shmups. But why Gaiden? Why is it a Gaiden game? Why not just Darius 3? That to me, is it because the aspect ratio? They're like, oh, it's one screen. It's Gaiden. Like, what is it?
Yeah, so I think Prickly Angler will so not the enemy in the game, my friend who did the Darius 2 run the other day and shoot the baguette. He'll probably kill me if I don't say.
I showed that on the screen.
Gaiden. Oh, nice. Yeah, Darius Gaiden was initially going to be Darius 3, and it was actually Metal Black, if you know that game.
Yes.
I've only played it once. I'm really unfamiliar with it, but he really likes Metal Black.
A lot of people do.
I've heard it's really good.
Yeah.
I didn't really I only played it for like 20 minutes, but I didn't quite understand it. But that was initially going to be Darius 3, and then they were like, wait, this is way too different. We can't do that. And so then Alex is here. Cool. Hey. Darius Gaiden. I don't know if I can quite answer that question, actually.
It could be a mystery.
I know they were going to make a Darius 3.
Chat, weigh in. What's the Gaiden? My vote would be it's one screen and it has bombs. And they're like, it's one screen and it has bombs, it's Gaiden now. That would be my guess.
I think, and I might be wrong on this, I think it's the story. I think it's the story is the reason, which is like such an obtuse thing to do for a shoot 'em up. I think it's story related though, because it's like different pilots, because it's not Proco and Tiat, but also
Alex weighed in. He said it is the screen. He said according to the developers, Darius Gaiden is Gaiden because they're like it's on one screen.
Single screen.
Single screen shmup. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, oh my god. Darius Gaiden is so good. I literally bought a Sega Saturn to play Darius Gaiden. That was the only reason I got one.
That's crazy. So did you buy you must have purchased Darius Gaiden, I'm assuming. I mean, there's some people who own Sega Saturns that don't necessarily purchase those games, but I would never, speak to someone who would do something like that.
Of course not. Yeah,
I
used to be.
Did you actually buy Darius Gaiden?
So yeah, I used to be really big into collecting. I actually just like a month ago started selling off my more expensive games. I sold a bunch of shoot 'em ups actually, like Truxton and Gaiaris and a bunch of Genesis shoot 'em ups.
Did you
sold Radiant Silvergun.
Did you make a profit? Or did you break even?
I bought them in like 2010, dude.
So you made a profit?
Yeah, I mean, technically, yeah, I did, yeah. Because I bought them when I was a kid, when I was like,
snap.
It was cheaper. I was a kid. I didn't have money. I was like, I have a Genesis because my neighbor moved to college and gave me his Genesis.
Oh, so you were
I don't have money to buy Wii games, so I'm gonna buy Genesis games, and so I did that. And so I got trucks in for $30 back then.
Wow. You know, I one of my biggest ones is since we're talking about collecting, this will be the one time I ever talk about it, because my collecting career is short and brief, but I had this Ogre Tactics Ogre on the Super Nintendo.
I've heard that's really good.
Yeah, it's really good. It's one of those RPGs on the SNES that I probably would never play all that much because it requires, time and attention. But anyway, I had that game. I actually sold it. Just because I got it from like a yard sale or whatever it was, and I was like, oh, this looks like a, $3 game. Looks like one of those POS games, that wasn't that great. Turned out it was pretty valuable. So I sold it, I think, for like $100 or something. That was my biggest win. I was like, yeah. But most of my career is picking things up for like $20 and selling them for 40. So you can make like $20 on a flip, but never any big hitters. But if you're holding shmups from back in the day, I'm guessing you made a good amount of money on them.
Yeah, I also have like some RPGs and stuff that I haven't quite sold yet. But like even just like the prices of video games are just stupid now. Like,
are they?
Literally 2 years ago, I bought Shining Force 3 for $140, which is a lot of money for a single game. More like a third of a game in that game's case, because that's all it is. There's 2 other that we didn't get, but that's beside the point. That thing goes for $400 now.
Holy
and I'm
crap.
like, what?
The game I always check on eBay to see what the market is doing with retro games? I always check Chrono Trigger, see what, like, if Chrono Trigger goes up.
What is that at now?
Let's see. If Chrono Trigger goes up, it's like, oh, prices are up. If Chrono Trigger goes down, prices are down. It's like the canary in the coal mine.
My friend got that with the manual at a thrift shop for like $75 I guess it was probably 10 years ago now. So that's like what, for me, it's like, oh, Chrono Trigger $75.
Yeah, it was 100 a while back now. Whoa. It's up.
How much is
it's up. It's like $200 now. I'm seeing $235 or best offer. Someone's bidding on it for $150, but that's right at the start. It's selling for like $300 by now. Yeah, so the prices have, because it was just a few years ago that Chrono Trigger is always a good one to use. It was like $100.
It's a good game too.
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah, prices are definitely up. Sell.
Yeah, even the DS
sell,
version
buy Bitcoin.
is expensive too.
I'm just kidding. The long game. Yeah, actually, I think I made a podcast episode about this, about whether or not it's time to sell our childhood collections. And I was thinking maybe now is the time to do it. I've been thinking about it.
It could be, but also, like, I mean, video games are like, there's only so many of them. They're only going to keep going up, so it depends. It depends.
Yeah, you're thinking in the long game.
Yeah, but I don't want to. The reason I sold my stuff is because right now I live
for the long game is, this is my worry, is people just turn into an army of Electric Underground fans that emulate everything and, use misters and FPGAs, and we all just don't ever spend money on the originals anymore. I don't think that's going to happen, though, because that's a very niche mindset. But
well, it's niche right now. I used to be, not into emulating. Obviously, I'm not still, because we don't do that here.
No. No.
But I have like changed my mind on it, because games are just expensive. I want
especially shmups.
Buy them to play them.
Especially shmups.
I don't want to buy a game not to play it. Yeah, especially shoot 'em ups. They're the worst offenders.
Yeah.
But God, yeah. Darius Guidance is pretty expensive too. I think it goes for like around 100.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's a normal. Maybe people are used to paying that much for shoot 'em ups. I don't know.
I feel like shmups. I don't know. Again, collectors can weigh in, but I don't feel like console shmups have really risen all that much. Like, let's look at Dodonpachi.
What are you talking, the PCBs?
No. I'm talking PCBs definitely have. I mean, the console version. So, like, for instance, Dodonpachi on PS1. Let's look. That's like $100 usually. So has that gone up? Oh, it has. Okay. So things are rising.
Oh, yeah.
It's like 140, 160. Yeah, it's up. Because you could buy it for 100.
Truxton on PC Engine is like in the multiple hundreds. It's like 500-600.
Wow.
I mean, that one's pretty rare. Actually, it might not even be Truxton. It might be Tatsujin, because I think it's just PC Engine. I don't think it's on the TurboGrafx. Some are insane. Radiant Silvergun is.
Oh
it's
my
actually
gosh.
Stayed pretty. It kind of flatlined, but it's always been really expensive. So it's still really expensive.
Yeah.
It's just not absurd.
My favorite was one time on eBay, I was going to sell my copy of Ikaruga, which I did long ago.
Oh, you have one? Dreamcast or
no, GameCube. This was long ago. I did sell it. I don't have it anymore. But I was just looking on eBay for prices. Someone was selling their Ikaruga, like sealed, and this is before sealed became what it is today, where it's like a hot new trend. This was like before a lot of people were doing that. $1,000. I'm sure he probably never managed to make that sale, but this was like 4 or 5 years ago. Someone was trying to sell Ikaruga sealed GameCube for $1,000. I thought that was hilarious.
I don't think I will ever not open a game. Like, I don't know, man. I wanna play them. You know?
I would be the person to do that and flip it. Like if I knew for sure, like if
an investment, yeah.
Like if I like to flip stuff pretty quickly. So like if I went to a yard sale and someone had a sealed copy of Chrono Trigger, which would be one hell of a find. But let's say I found that, I wouldn't open that shit. I would just flip it immediately and sell it. But
in that case, I'm talking like a new game comes out on Switch or something.
Yeah. Well, I
have done that a couple times because
what I have heard of people doing, and I don't think this is a wise strategy, but I'm not an expert, is people buying limited run games and then not opening them and hoping to resell them in the future. I think you're playing a tricky game there, because limited run is sort of targeting you specifically. It kind of targets collectors. And so the problem is that the person who buys the limited run game to keep it sealed, to sell it sealed, is probably the same dude who would buy that sealed copy from me. So you're both holding, no one's buying. That's what my concern with that. Like the person who would buy that is you, and you already bought it. But
I did that with the Hellfire reprint, just because I played it. I did open it and I played it, and I was like, I don't really love this, and I have a lot of stuff, and I'm moving soon. I want to get rid of it. So I did get rid of it, and I lost like $20 or something.
I wonder what Garega.
I hate scalping also.
Because I have Garega on PS4. I actually didn't realize that. Like, I wonder how that's doing. It's like the same. It's 90 now. I mean, that's like basically not that much higher. You know what I mean? Like it. I don't think it's a strong strategy, but maybe I could be wrong there.
Yeah, I wouldn't make that your day job. Flipping
limited run games. I think that's a risk.
Yeah. But what? Okay, I had said I got a Saturn.
Yes, and I was trying to pin down how much money you spent on this.
Right.
It sounds like it was back in the day.
I can tell you exactly how much. It wasn't that back in the day. I was in. So I'm only 25 right now. This was in college. I must have been like 20 or something. And oh my god, I remember it so vividly. Oh my god. So I was using Craigslist because I was just kind of messing around. I actually had Darius Gaiden already. I have it on PS2 in the Taito Legends version.
Oh.
But this was back when I wasn't like a big shoot 'em up player. I didn't know what a 1cc was. And so in that game, it's like on the Cosmic Collection, you just gotta like feed the credits.
Yeah.
And so I wanted like this fixed challenge that no matter what, I could not alter. Like,
yeah,
the Saturn version caps you off at 3 credits, and I wanted that. Like, obviously, yeah, I could just pump in 3 credits and then tell myself I've lost when I get there. But like the fact that it's like hard coded into the Saturn version, I really wanted that for some insane reason. And so I was like,
Yeah, that's a thing when you're first starting the genre. Like, it is a thing to have the game, because when you're a more experienced shmup player, you're used to getting slapped around by the game, and so you can accept getting slapped around. But when you're a newer player, like, you need an extra hard slap. You need the game to be like, no matter what you do, you lose. Because, the temptation to credit feed is just too strong.
Too easy to credit feed, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, so I was just like looking around on Craigslist, and I found this insane deal. I didn't get it, unfortunately. This dude, $60, a Saturn, and then it had like, what is it called? Dragon Force. It's like a strategy RPG.
Yeah.
He had like 7 different like crazy expensive games and Darius Gaiden, like all complete in box. I didn't get that one. However, this other guy was selling a Saturn with a loose copy of Darius Gaiden, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't realize like it was popular enough that random people would like that would be the only thing they have left of their Saturn collection.
Maybe they sold everything else off.
Yeah, I don't know. But so I was like, wow, this is perfect. Like, this is the game I want and the console. Like, because I literally didn't know any other games on the Saturn that I wanted to play.
Fighters Mega Mix. That was the game.
I'm not big into fighting games.
I was just teasing.
Is that a good one?
Yeah, it's the it's like the Mugen version of Virtua Fighter made by Sega, where you can fight as like the car from Gran Turismo. It's like Super Smash. It's like Super Smash Brothers, but with Virtua Fighter and Sega characters. It's actually really fun.
Yeah,
you can fight as the car.
Seen that. That would actually be a fun one.
That's
to
like
play.
that's the one Saturn game that is within physical format in my house, I'll say.
You have one and that's it?
That's it. Fighters Mega Mix, yeah.
Wow. That's pretty awesome.
If you keep standing, I'll grab it. We'll do a little show and tell. So keep talking, I'll get up and grab it.
Sure. Yeah, this was like in December, and the guy who was selling it lived like halfway across the state being Massachusetts. And so we decided to meet up like halfway there, and like do an exchange. And it was Christmas Eve, and he I don't remember how I had asked him, but he had somehow mentioned that he was like a firefighter. And so when I got there, we met at like in the back parking lot of a veterinarian building, and he got out, and he was the most firefighter looking dude I've ever seen in my life. He was like this big white guy with a handlebar mustache, and he was like jacked, and he just handed me a Saturn, and then I handed him $60 and went back. $60 for Darius Gaiden and a Sega Saturn, and that was hot. That was awesome. And then I went back home and I played the crap out of Darius Gaiden. So good. Oh man, that was crazy. That was a fun Christmas Eve.
So okay, I'm back. Sorry, chat. I have failed because I just found out that my Fighters Mega Mix case is holding up a PCB right now, and I don't want to pull it out. So instead, I've returned in failure. But I did manage to find my Rolling Gunner. So how does that count? I got my Rolling Gunner physical edition here. I keep my physical games like usually in a storage room, so I don't really have a whole lot of them floating around. But yep, I do have Rolling Gunner. The case is empty.
Pretty much all mine are back here now. I
really
dropped down. I used to have a lot more than that.
I am such a bad retro gaming YouTuber in that sense. You know how like retro gaming YouTubers all have their collections wall, and all that stuff? Mine is like, I'm much more of a slob.
Fighters Mega Mix.
Yeah, Fighters Mega Mix, and a bunch of old PCBs and bootleg cartridges, and
that's cool though.
Giant CRTs, like a giant CRT. Like mine is much more jank, and I'm not as organized. I keep everything just in a storage room mostly.
Yeah, I've been getting rid of most of my games, except for like the ones that have like crazy stuff that you need to play them. Like I have right over there. You can't see it though. I have the Saturn driving wheel that I use for Outrun, which is just so fun. Oh my god, that's fun. And then I have the keyboard for typing of the dead on two of them.
Yes.
So
I want to get
two-player typing of the dead.
I want to get that. I want to get that
It's
and do a
sick.
video on it. Like,
It's so good.
I think I talked about this in a really old podcast episode, but I was in my high school. I prided myself on being the fastest typer in my high school. I mean, I had some serious WPM. These days I'm not.
What is it? What is your?
It was like 150. It was like
peak.
It was like 150.
Oh my god!
It was.
You could have been like a stenographer.
Yeah. Well, the thing was is that we'd hold typing competitions, so it was like my very first foray into like competitive. It's almost like competitive gaming because it wasn't just a matter of can you type quickly. It's like you had to. There's like meta strategies and like we do different typing programs too. Yeah, and like you had to WPM and anyway. So that was like one of my first forays into competitive gaming was being a typing fast typer. But I thought it would be funny to bring that back with like typing of the dead or something and show off my competitive typing skills.
That would be sick. Typing of the Dead actually has a wild tutorial. Not a tutorial. Touch typing lessons.
Nice.
That are
nice.
Like fully voice acted, and they like, oh my god, it's insane. My friend didn't know how to type very fast, and so we had him play like the touch typing tutorial, Typing of the Dead on the Dreamcast. And it was so funny. It was the craziest thing.
I also, speaking of peripherals, I'm really into light gun games, so I'm holding on to those. I got a bunch of Namco gun cons, and I have a
cool.
CRTs specifically for, what do you call it? Light gun games, and I tried to do a video on a light gun game for the PS2 called Vampire Knight, which is really fun. Problem is, it took me like 2 hours to set up the capture setup. And then I set it up, and I couldn't clear the game. I couldn't 1cc it. And so I sat there for like 5 hours recording, trying to get the clear, and I couldn't. And I had gotten it before, so I had to, lose and defeat. So hopefully I get that clear and do it again. But anyway, so you got Darius Gaiden, sorry.
Darius Gaiden.
There's Gradius Gaiden.
So I got Darius Gaiden. Yeah, you missed the story. I got it from this wicked firefighter guy. He was just like your stereotypical firefighter guy. I had to drive out on Christmas Eve to get it. That was an awesome Christmas Eve, though, because I got to play Darius Gaiden. I used to play it on, actually, this TV, this flat screen TV with composite cables.
Nice.
With, not super noticeable, but definitely their input lag.
Yes.
Stretched.
You got the true Darius experience there. That's how Gaiden's meant to be played, stretched. Right?
Yeah, stretched on a flat screen. Exactly. Yeah, it's you can just take away the Gaiden after that because it gets stretched.
You were playing Darius 3. You weren't playing Gaiden at that point.
Yeah, exactly. But I have since upgraded to the HD Retrovision component cables, and I have a PVM actually, which is awesome. It's only 13 inches, but.
That's gonna be what you're gonna find with PVMs without spending your life savings.
Yeah, I'm not trying to do that. I was thinking about doing that, and then I was like, I don't need to spend that much money on something that I won't be able to carry to my next house. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, Darius Gaiden. I started playing it, and it's a 2-player shoot 'em up, and I wanted nothing more than to play it with my friends because. This was during college, so I was here, and this is my parents' house. When I left Spain, I didn't have an apartment in the U.S., so I had to come back to my parents' house. I'm actually moving out for grad school in a couple weeks.
Summertime.
So I was here for Christmas Eve, and so then I went out to my apartment after winter break for undergraduate for college, and I like forced one of my friends to play it with me. And our skill level wasn't too different because I wasn't huge into shmups back then. And I hadn't had too much practice with the game, but so then we started playing. That was Frank Pizza, actually.
Oh, nice.
So we started playing that game together. We used to live together, and so like every day we would just play, and we would try and get down to Stormcauser. I think it's the cannon route if you go down every time, and it was so hard. But eventually, we were able to do it with both of us using all 3 credits. And it felt like we felt like masters. We were like, oh yeah, we can beat Darius Gaiden 2-player using all 3 credits.
Yeah.
But oh my god, it was so fun. And then after that, we would just keep playing and just play all the different levels. And then I started like really getting into it single player. And right around then was when I made that video. And then I've just like I've since then I've 1cc'd every single route that you can do. God, I love that game. That is my all-time favorite video game, Darius Gaiden.
So you hadn't really had experience with the other Darius games that I'm assuming before then?
That was the first one I played. Yeah.
So
Darius Gaiden.
What stands out about Gaiden to you specifically, about what makes it such a strong, because it's not just you, a lot of people, myself included,
everyone
feel that it is the strongest entry into the series. What qualities do you think contribute to its beloved nature?
Yeah, I mean, one thing for sure that it has on the other games, objectively, is the graphics, because it's 32-bit versus whatever those arcade machines were.
Yeah.
So it's a stunning looking game. One of my friends actually has a hard time even just watching us play it, because it does flash the screen a lot. It is kind of insane.
Yeah.
It really is like a. You kind of have to be careful with that.
It's like that episode of Pokemon.
Like epilepsy.
It's like
yeah.
Pikachu in the whatever factory.
Yeah, that's the one like where they ride the Porygons into the digital world.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, the band episode.
So it's got the bombs, the black hole bombs, which just make it that much more approachable, because if you run, it has shields and bombs. So if you run out of shield when you're first starting out the game, obviously when you get good and you want to do good score, you never want to bomb. But when you're just trying to get the clear for the first time, having those bombs can mean the difference between having 3 bombs can almost mean having 3 extra lives if you use them properly,
And they are cave-esque bombs. Like, they are not
full screen.
Yeah, they're not like old school bombs where they take forever, like Raiden, for example. Like Raiden, there's a specific area of the screen. It takes an hour to come out, and you have to hide inside it. No, Gaiden is like a cave game. You hit that bomb, and boom! It just covers the screen. Tons of invulnerability, tons of damage. Everyone dies.
Tons of invulnerability.
Yeah. It's very strong.
There are actually a couple frames before the bomb goes off. So you can die and get a bomb off.
Oh, interesting.
Which is unfortunate. But it rarely happens.
Right.
It's very rare. Usually, if you see that you're screwed, you hit that button and you're set. And then, you can run up to the boss and just point blank them and just run through them. It's also what makes it have a lot of wide appeal is that its auto fire, its default auto fire, is at like a rate that you can actually be comfortable with.
Yes,
I don't like playing with turbo fire set to 30 hertz on that game. I almost exclusively play it without turbo fire, except when I was like speed running it, where you kind of just have to.
You got to do that.
But so then I would. But other than that, like your rate of fire is really good, and the upgrade path is really good too. You get punished early on, so you need a lot of upgrades before you. So if you die, okay, what am I saying? So the way that like the power-up reset works when you die is it sets you back to the beginning of the previous level. So you start off with bullets, then you go to the lasers. So if you die with the lasers, you get set back to the beginning of the bullets, which is a little harsh. But once you get beyond that, it feels much less harsh because it's not the beginning. So as soon as you get that wave, if you die with a wave, you go back to the beginning of the lasers, which is totally manageable.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, depending on where you are, but.
So it basically it rewards you for being able to carry all the way through in a way that other old school shmups don't. Like, for example, in Gradius, it doesn't matter how upgraded you are. Once you're dead, goodbye. But what it does is it's like a middle ground where it will punish you, but it won't throw you back to level 1. Instead, it will like bring you a certain amount back, but you're not straight up dead.
And you have the bombs too on top of that. So
yes, and
if you die and you're still kind of screwed, you can just throw a bomb down immediately and be like, okay, like I need just another second of invulnerability to breathe and collect myself. But you do still have to be pretty good to be able to recover from a death in that game. The other thing is you need to know every level inside and out, because not all the power-ups are objective upgrades. Like the bullets, your starting weapon, deal the most damage out of everything. The lasers pierce, but they do less damage, and the waves do even less damage, but they go through walls as well.
Yeah.
But then in the old games, that was it. You got the wave, and you just kind of had to deal with it, the fact that you were doing a little less damage. But in this one, you can get waves that have the bullets with them. So you can not only have that wall-piercing ability, you also have that damage output that you want. And so then the strategy becomes get to the boss with the bullets and the waves. And so like there's a bunch of different levels of that, right? So you've got the small wave with 2 bullets. Then you upgrade to just waves to 3 waves, 3 small waves. Then you upgrade to 1 single wave. And then you upgrade to a big wave with 2 bullets. So it's like you really want to get to the boss with either one of the ones with the bullets to be doing like optimum damage and make it just more comfortable for you, essentially. So at least that's the way I play. I haven't looked into too many super plays of the game or anything.
That sounds right to me. That's what I've seen.
Yeah, it's crazy, but that also means the second to last power up, the second to last, like the one right before the maximum power up, is actually the most powerful.
Oh.
So you have to like either just say screw it and get the maximum power up and then just like be dealing slightly less damage than optimal, or you have to try dodging every weapon power up that comes at you for the rest of the game.
That's funny.
So there's a balancing act for sure with that. And in terms of scoring with that, you do get 5,000 points for every red, every weapon pickup you get after maximum. So
you gotta do
I haven't played it for scoring too much. I have though. I have broken. I forget what the exact barrier is, but I like got the extra digit or whatever. So it was 10 million, I think. Yeah, I think you're usually in the millions. So I think I did get into the 10 million barrier once, which is pretty good. It's nothing crazy. I can't do it on the arcade version though, because the Saturn version and the arcade version are slightly different.
What are the differences?
They're super minute, but they make a big difference when you're going for score, or if you're super used to the Saturn version. So the Saturn version runs slightly slower. So it runs like it's not really that noticeable. You wouldn't notice unless you had played a lot of both of them. But if you input the same controls, the Saturn version will just finish the game like in a slower amount of time. Like it's just physically slow.
It's got a lower frame rate probably.
Yeah, so it's probably running like 55 or 58 or something like it. But it's enough that it does make a difference. And then some of the patterns actually are different as well. Like Titanic Lance, for example, who's the giant squid boss that is the entire level, who's one of my favorites. I used to hate him because he's really hard, but once you figure him out, he's like the coolest boss. His final attack, he has this one attack where his legs, his like tendrils come off and spin around and shoot bullets out, and on the Saturn version it shoots them out in nice little horizontal strips that just go across the screen horizontally, but in the arcade version they kind of just go all over the place. So it's super hard to dodge in the arcade.
Oh, interesting.
And then I think rank also goes a bit faster in arcade. So like the bullet sizes of certain enemies will change. They'll get bigger as your rank gets up.
Right.
So you'll know. That's one easy way to tell where your rank is.
Oh yeah, those do sound like not massive, but significant enough that when you add them up across the versions, arcade is harder for scoring.
Yeah, it's significantly harder. I've definitely once you see the arcade version, but I don't think I could just sit down and do it.
Right. And
I can sit down any day of the week and 1cc Darius Gaiden on the Saturn.
Right.
Arcade version, not so much.
And it looks like in the chat people are saying that one issue with the scoring in Gaiden is that the gray power-ups are random, or there's like some random elements to the gray power-ups. That's always fun.
Yep. Yeah, you can get anywhere from like 50 points to like, I don't know what the max is, but I know you can get like 256,000 or something. So it's like all over the place.
Oh boy.
Or maybe it's 25,600. It's like a huge difference. Yeah. The biggest things that's going to affect your score is how many lives you finish with and how many bombs you finish with. So,
interesting.
Another difference, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think the arcade version has a cap on how many bombs you can have. I might be wrong, or it might be higher than the Saturn. I might just be wrong. It might have a cap of 5. The Saturn version has a cap of 5 bombs. So, depending on the route you go, you could actually use a bomb and still get like a perfect run on the Saturn version, and maybe the arcade version if I'm wrong about this. So like the route that I did for Shmup Slam 3.
We're watching that right now.
on oh really?
Yeah.
For Neon Light Illusion, I used a bomb because I knew that I would be getting one on the next stage anyway, and so it would just go to waste if I didn't use it there.
Right.
Plus, Neon Light Illusion is really hard.
Right.
Like.
So once so there's no maximum bonus type thing, where in Donpachi, for example, each subsequent bomb you collect increases the multiplier. So there isn't any point in which you cap, because you always want to collect that next bomb because it will always increase the multiplier. But it sounds like the way it does is like this cash out system where if you get the bombs and you're just maxed out, any additional bombs aren't going to factor into your scoring.
You can't even use them.
Oh, okay.
You can't even use them as a bomb. Yeah.
Yeah, they just get sucked up and goodbye.
Yeah, I think you might get points for them, maybe, or maybe you just get the same amount of points you would get for getting one anyway. I'm honestly not sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. So yeah, unfortunately that makes it. Yeah, you kind of just have to no miss for the best high score, which makes it.
And I remember watching.
I guess you kind of have to do that anyway. But
yeah, I remember watching some replays for the scoring when I did the video index for it, and yeah, it doesn't seem like it's massively popular for scoring, but there are scoring replays of it.
Yeah. Oh, Alex is saying too. You can capture the mid bosses, which are called captains, and those will net you a bonus at the end depending on how many you catch. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And they're hard though. They're kind of inconsistent as well. They might be random what attacks they do. It might not be, because some of them have a couple different attacks they can do. Specifically, Vampire Squid, the last captain that you'll see, has this one attack where he stops and he's like an octopus. Squid, I guess. And he shoots a big laser out the back. And if he does that, you can almost like guaranteed get the capture because he stops and like lets you just shoot his little sphere on his head that you used to capture him. But if he just flies off the screen,
no capture.
There's not a lot you can do. He'll come back eventually, but the shots that he shoots are kind of hard to dodge, and you have to bait him back. So it's really tricky to get him back and to get the capture. So if you don't get the capture before he goes off screen, it's tough.
I just got it. The capture mechanic, I get it, because it's like a fish themed game. You're like you're catching the fish. I get it.
Yeah.
That's a fun mechanic because it like fits into the theme of the game.
Yeah, I mean that's what G Darius, the whole thing is.
Yes. Perfect.
Yeah.
Let's talk about G Darius. Yes. I played it.
Is wild.
I played it some last night, and I have to admit, as I was playing it, I'm like, a lot of this game is going over my head. What's funny about G Darius, though, for people who don't know, is that there is a PC version of it, like an old PC version of it. That's abandonware that you can download. I couldn't get the sound to work, but like the music sound, but the sound effects worked. But I was playing it last night. You'll see, you can just get it, I guess.
There's the same thing for Darius Gaiden. There's PC version. There's also a PS1 version in Japan.
Yes.
Darius Gaiden.
And G Darius is on PS1 as well.
G Darius, I think, is only on PS1 and PC, right? I think that's it. And it just got released on Switch and PS4.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I didn't love it at first. I didn't really like it. It's really hard. It's really hard.
Yeah, Mr. Walrus is saying that the PC version probably isn't all that great. I could understand that. I mean, it feels, it's like launching an old PC game, so you never know how accurately they hold up and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually have the physical PC version of Darius Gaiden.
Oh, that's cool.
It's pretty bad. It runs at like 45 frames per second. It's noticeably slower, and it's missing some music. Like, I even like took it and put it in a disc, like a CD player, and was listening to the music, and then some of the tracks just aren't there.
They probably couldn't fit it on the disc. They probably were like...
I bought it twice, just to make sure it wasn't my copy, because it was like $10 or something. Yeah. It was really cheap. And I checked it, and both of them were the same thing, so then I gave the other one to my friend.
They probably didn't have enough room on the actual physical CD for the audio.
Yeah.
Because if it was like Redbook audio or whatever, or like,
yeah, it is.
Tracks, it's like, we don't have enough room for this crap. We only can fit, so many minutes of music on here.
It's so bad. But yeah, G Darius is kind of crazy. But the same problem happened to me where the no sound was when I downloaded the abandonware version of Darius Gaiden. So I think I don't know.
Maybe they just don't have it in the abandonware versions, or maybe it's too big of a download with it. Who knows?
Could be, yeah.
You probably could fix it somehow.
Yeah, there's a way to do anything, but I'm not gonna figure it out.
Yeah. So how have you played G Darius? What's the way you play the game?
Yeah, so the first way I played it was the same way I played Darius Gaiden. Taito Legends 2 for PS2 has both of those games, as well as a ton of other Taito games. It used to be like $10. Now it goes for closer to 50 or 60, maybe even more than that. So I would recommend that, but it's kind of expensive now. You might as well just buy G Darius.
It's probably hard to remember, but how was the quality of that port looking back? Was it well done, or are there issues that you're aware of?
I have played it recently. You're talking the G Darius port specifically?
Yes, on PS2.
Yeah, so that version, I believe they got rid of the slowdown that was initially in the arcade version.
Oh boy!
So it's really hard.
Oh boy!
The PS1 version has slowdown, and it's much easier, and it has like a training mode. Or a beginner mode, and it has like you can select what boss. You can practice the bosses.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is so nice. That was how I got good at G Darius. I had it on my PSP, and so when I was on the train, when I was on the metro in Madrid, I would just like pop open my PSP Go, which is underrated console, by the way. That thing's awesome.
You can make phone calls and play. You can do both.
You can use it as a phone.
Yes, the PSP Go is a phone.
Oh my god, I gotta set that up. It's unfortunately though, the only thing that's not great about it, actually it doesn't matter now, they got rid of the PSP store, so never mind. I was gonna say it can't get on new Wi-Fi networks, but
I'm pretty sure you can load something on there that allows you to play certain games that would used to be on those networks. I'm pretty sure that works on the PSP Go as well.
It definitely does, 100%.
Yes. Okay.
Not that I would know.
No.
But yeah, I used to play it on my PSP on the train, and it was so fun. I would just sit there, and I remember I did this with Dimension Diver, the silver version, and I just played it over and over and over on the train to Madrid. I would just keep playing Dimension Diver until I could do it perfectly, because I had that boss rush mode that the PS1 version has, which was so nice. Nowadays, we have save states, which is good too.
Extra nice too.
Yeah, probably better, honestly.
Absolutely.
Than having the boss selection. But
because you
could
even save state certain patterns within the boss
too.
Yeah, that's true.
Certain patterns even. Yeah. So, what was your initial question? I forgot. Was it how do I play it?
Yes. What?
Yeah.
So we got the chat weighing in here. They're saying the PS2 version is way too fast, so avoid that.
It's so fast. Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on the PS1 version, if you've ever played that?
So I've only played it on my PSP, which I can only assume is playing it properly.
Yeah, I've heard. I'm pretty sure chat can weigh in here, but I'm pretty sure the PSP is pretty faithful to the PS1 because it has a PS1 inside it, basically. Like, you can play PS1 games on your PSP, like, straight up.
All you have to do is, like, download, well, never mind, I'm not going to go there.
Well, you get your
CD,
you get your CD ripper, you get your, properly purchased CD, and you put it in there, and you...
and then you just have to convert the file.
Yeah, and you convert the file. Exactly.
And then it plays, Yes. It's sick. It from what I remember, it plays really well. It has slowdown where it probably should have slowdown, and it's hard, but it's good. It's solid fun. The later levels are pretty tough, but once you get used to them, you can kind of figure out what to do. I didn't realize you can both bomb and shoot like mega lasers.
Yeah.
They're called beta beams. No, alpha beams. Yeah.
So what's going on with that mechanic? Because I figured it out as I was playing, but I couldn't.
Yeah.
It seemed to work sometimes and not work other times. So I was like, something's going on here.
So depending on the PlayStation 1 version and in the arcade, the way that the beta beam, the alpha beam works is you shoot it out, and it kind of just absorbs anything that it hits, right?
Yeah.
But the bosses have what they call beta beams that they will shoot out.
Yes.
And if you counter their beta beams with your alpha beam and mash the hell out of the fire button, you can like enter these Dragon Ball Z kind of
like beam
laser battles.
Yeah.
And if you mash fast enough, your alpha beam will like take over their beta beam and like destroy them. And then you get I think you get, someone correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think you get like a score multiplier for like how many times over your alpha beam has like taken over the beta beam, and it just gets giant. It ends up taking like half the screen if you're on like one of the final bosses that shoots like 6 lasers at you.
Yeah, whenever I watched super plays for this game, it's all about those beam struggles, I think, for score, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you might get tallied up at the end for how many single, double, triple, and quadruple like overtakes you get. I think that's how it works. I've only CC'd it once, so because after I did, I was like, okay, I have the right to review this game now.
Yeah, you did it.
I went hard for like 2 days straight. That was like all I did was play G Darius. The new version is hot.
Is it?
G Darius HD is so good. I mean, if you don't have any version of G Darius, that's the one to get, because it comes with the original, and it has the graphics update. The graphics update is nothing but changing it from like 240p, where it's literally like you can see the pixels, to it like being actually like HD. So instead of things looking chunky PS1 graphics, everything looks nice.
While you talk about it and describe it, I'm gonna pull it up here.
Yeah, do that. And then they redid the model. So the old ship, I believe, was just a sprite, like a 2D sprite, I think. And so now they've redone it. And then when it was moving around, they had a 3D model for it. I'm pretty sure it was just a 2D sprite when it was moving around. But so then what they did was they redid the model. So now they have like an actual really nice looking ship model that moves around. So it's essentially the same game. It just looks a little bit nicer, but it still is like faithful to that like early 3D style graphics, but they're crystal clear. And for me, I absolutely love that.
I definitely want to check that out, because it's always a mixed bag with these HD upgrades. Like, sometimes they do a great job. Like, I think the Cotton reboot did a pretty good job with it. Then other times they just look cheap, or they just look very bland. So I'm curious to see how it works, how it looks.
If you don't like the style of the original G Darius, it's not going to do it. The update's not going to do anything for you, because it's just that, but clearer, essentially.
And I love the original style. I love PS1 era, like really like sharp polygonal graphics. I like those a lot.
I think you'll like the HD version of G Darius then, because you could in theory, someone, I actually haven't done this, but you could like get an emulator and like just bump up the graphics to be like graphic intensive as possible on the PS1 version. And aside from the player ship, that'll pretty much be what Darius HD would look like.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up now. Yeah, I definitely see what you mean.
Done. Yeah, it's good. That's a good game.
So, can you explain a little
pretty.
bit how
there's achievements and stuff too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for like doing a bunch of different tasks, and then there's also a bestiary of any enemies that you've captured. So it like encourages you to like go, and it has like they'll be like blacked out, but it'll tell you what zones they're in, so you can kind of like Pokemon, like gotta catch them all.
I was about to say that.
Like,
it sounds like some Pokemon stuff right there.
Go through all the different routes so you can find that like one enemy that appears once in that level and like capture it so you can complete your bestiary. It's so cool.
So can you explain a little bit how the capture mechanic works? Because that's something that I was curious about as I was playing it. Because it's like pretty different than the other versions.
Yeah, so the way that it works is kind of similar to the black hole bombs in Darius Gaiden. Purple shields, or actually there's spheres in this game, I think. Purple spheres that you pick up, and they, go to the bottom left-hand corner, and you can see how many captures you've got left. And so instead of, hitting the bomb button and having a bomb go off, you shoot out a ball right in front of you, a sphere, an orb, that if it hits an enemy, for the most part, will capture that enemy, and that every single enemy in the game has a different attack. And so depending on what enemy you get, depending on what level you're on and where you're at in that level, you might want to capture different enemies to help you out either offensively or defensively, or both. So some enemies will have like homing missiles. Other enemies will have nothing, but they'll like just be a barrier in front of you, which can be really helpful if you've lost your shield or something. And so you have to figure out, when you want to capture enemies, what enemies you want to capture, and then you can either detonate them, which will like blow up, give you some iframes, do a little bit of damage, and just kind of give you some breathing room. It's not like Darius Gaiden though. It's just like a very specific area, but it is pretty much instant.
Yeah, and it's cool when you capture them because you can they become sub weapons and stuff. Some of them.
Yeah, and some of them will follow you around. Some of them will like have a fixed position underneath you. Some of them will follow you around, and you can like maneuver them so that they're shooting while in front of you and like taking hits for you instead.
Yeah.
Or you can hold down the beam button and convert like their essence into the alpha beam. And,
snap! I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's how you use the beams. So you gotta capture something, and then you like sacrifice them. You like absorb them and then spit them out in all of their energy.
That's so cool.
It's sick. Oh yeah, and so then there's also mini bosses that you can capture, and usually they have like metal on their face, and so you have to break the metal off of first. But once you capture the mini bosses, they actually have like fighting game inputs that you can do that'll give them like a secondary attack. There's actually one of those in Darius Gaiden as well. Kubadai, I think. He has like a fighting game input where he'll like vomit out a bunch of stuff. Every single mid boss has one of those fighting game inputs that you can do to sort of vomit out extra firepower.
That's crazy.
But they usually they'll kind of stop firing after they finish it, so there's like a bit of like a cooldown after it.
Right.
So, I don't know what any of them are. I always just like mash the D-pad and get them off.
I'm guessing it's like quarter circles. That would be my guess.
Some of them are definitely quarter circles. Maybe all of them are. I think some of them are different though. But I'm not entirely sure. I could just look into it.
Full half circle inputs or full circle inputs or that
I know
weird Guilty Gear input where it's like you do a quarter circle and then you half circle the other direction. That one's weird.
I think the one in Darius Gaiden is like forward, backwards, diagonal forwards or something. It's like a little something you might not do by accident.
Yeah. That's awesome. So what are your overall thoughts on Darius in comparison to the others in the series? Because I was having a lot of fun playing it, and it does feel like kind of an extension of what Gaiden was going for, but then with its own unique mechanics as well.
Yeah, it feels both very inspired by, but also totally different from Gaiden. How far did you get?
I got to like halfway through, one route, and then I was like, okay, that's enough footage.
Yeah. Yeah, so it gets really hard.
Yes.
There's only,
I was definitely
there's
feeling
only
the heat.
5 levels. Yeah. There's only five stages each I think. Right? I think there's only 5. Maybe it's 6. I think there's only 5. I would think about it, but it uses the Greek alphabet, which I know, but not as well as I know the regular alphabet.
Come
what's
on.
cool is it has those branching. Yeah, sorry. I think it's 5.
I thought you were
Someone will
college
correct me if I'm
educated.
wrong. I know.
You better not
right?
admit that first day of grad school. It's like, hey, I only know half the Greek alphabet. I don't know the whole thing.
Oh, I know the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
But
That's good.
I don't know. I don't know how long it is, so I don't. I've never counted it before. But anyway, I'm pretty sure there's 5 stages. But each zone has its own little split. So even on the first zone, you can go a different path if you want, which is kind of fun. But yeah, it gets super hard around like the 4th level. I mean, even the 3rd level is pretty hard.
Yeah.
But the 4th level in particular is where things start to get pretty tricky. And you kind of just have to start using you pretty much just have to start using your alpha beam to clear regular enemies,
right?
Because they will just flood the screen, and as soon as they're on screen, bullets are everywhere. And it's not a bullet hell, but there are so many bullets. It's not a bullet hell, so you can't always weave through them.
Yeah,
is the
right.
problem. But there are the amount of bullets that you would see in like a bullet hell. So it's pretty tough if you don't know what you're doing. I wouldn't recommend it to someone wanting to get into the Darius series. Well, maybe if they're like a big shmup player, but someone who's like new to shmups, I wouldn't recommend.
Right, a little rough entry into the series.
Yeah, that and Darius 2 are probably 2 really good games that you maybe shouldn't play if you haven't played shoot 'em ups before. I think it's you.
Yep, I'm back.
Okay.
Yep. Sorry about that, everyone. I don't know why. It'll be fixed in the final video, though, so it's okay.
Yeah, I was just saying. I forget what I was saying. Something about it being good, probably.
That it was good, but difficulty-wise, it's not like a bullet hell where you can just tightly maneuver around everything and you have a tiny hitbox. This game, if you get covered in bullets, you're getting crushed.
Yeah, you really just have to be able to get up in the front of the screen and take out enemies before they fill the screen with bullets. That's how a lot of old school shoot 'em ups work, and you really just have to do that.
Absolutely.
So picking those enemies with the big offensive attacks that you can capture towards the later game is usually what you want to be doing.
So
the final bosses are really hard too. They're really long battles and they're really tricky.
So then I put up a replay for another game that I've seen a lot over the years, but I've never actually played. Darius Burst Chronicles. So do you have much experience with this, or Darius Chronicles Burst, whatever the name is?
Yeah, I've for months now I've been like telling myself, and I've started working on it on a video where I go over every single Darius Burst game and explain what the differences are and what they have changed. And so I've like got the script written out for the PSP version.
Oh, nice.
And I've played through all the other versions. I just haven't like gone down and written the script for them yet. But so yes, I do know about Darius Burst. The first one is Darius Burst. Came out in 2010 for the PSP, only in Japan.
Oh, interesting.
So I have that one. I think it was 2010. Maybe it was 2015. When was the PSP hot? I think it was 2010.
That was the heyday of the PSP.
Yeah, so it's 2010 then.
In that era.
That game's good. It's nothing remarkable. It's kind of like Darius Twin in that, like, it's good, but it's not, like, crazy good.
Right.
I think it's better than Darius Twin by a lot, but it's nothing too crazy. What's nice is it's a game made for the PSP, so it plays on the PSP really well.
Yes.
Which might sound weird saying right now, but you'll see why I'm saying that in a minute. The big gimmick with that game is your burst laser. So you can either shoot out a laser like you could in G Darius, but kind of whenever you want. But it only lasts for like maybe less than a second. It's really short. Or you can sort of pin it somewhere in space, and then by releasing or pressing the fire button, you can like, and moving your ship around, you can toggle the direction that it's aiming in.
Interesting.
And so if you can like, I'm sure there's crazy stuff you can do. I usually just like pin it to the top of the screen and then point it down so that it's like killing all the basic enemies on screen. And that'll like add to a multiplier, I think. I'm not exactly sure how the scoring works in this version. It might be different from future versions, but I know in future versions at least, you can get like a times 40 multiplier going. And you keeping those like burst chains alive is what the game is all about. I think they only go down if you get hit though, even with a shield though. So you have to be careful. But
okay.
The way that your shield works is however many, the more shield power-ups you collect, the more hits you get, I think. I think that's how the PSP version... I got to go back and double-check this. I know that's how it works in later version. But so, that's kind of how the scoring works. You just want to get hit as little as possible and get your multiplier up super high with that burst thing. And do correct me if I'm wrong about any of the scoring info, chat, because I'm not a big score player, so I'm far from an expert on that. But it's got 3 ships that you can play. Pretty much the differences are one of them has like the classic Darius bombs that go out in all 4 directions. The other one has bombs that home in.
Nice.
And which I like. That's called the Next. That's the name of the ship, Next. And their lasers, they just move in opposite directions. So I prefer the way that the Next moves. I think it moves opposite the way you move.
Okay.
Either that or it moves the same way. They're just switched. And then there's the Origin, which is just kind of bad. It's just the default ship, but without the burst laser, because it's supposed to be like the ship from the original Darius game.
Oh, so it's just bad. Like they didn't even.
It's just bad. There's some benefit. It might be scoring related. I can't remember though. But it makes the game just incredibly difficult. And so like I wouldn't recommend playing that way. And then there's a mobile port they made. It's called Darius Burst Second Prologue, I think, SP.
Oh yeah, there you go. When you get the mobile titles going.
I'm not gonna lie, it's hot. I really like that version. I was so skeptical because I've never played any mobile games before. It's really good. You like control it just by like moving around, and you shoot by default, and then you have like a burst button. Using the burst lasers is really hard, but they made a specific ship for the mobile port that like shoots out a big ball of energy. Hold on 1 sec. Just excuse me for 1 sec. I'll be right back.
Okay. So while he's gone, I'll step in on what I know about Darius Burst Chronicles. And what I know is that this game is complicated and massive, and whenever someone asks me to review it, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a lot going on here. So the footage you're seeing here, Darius Burst Chronicles has made its way into a few Shmup Slams before. I was just talking about the footage they're seeing on screen is the version that I've come across the most, which is the Steam version or the PC version. And this is very popular.
That's probably the best one.
It's expensive, but it seems to have an insane amount of content around it. And it has made its way into many Shmup Slams. The footage they're seeing here is ECT playing in a Shmup Slam 2, I think it was. So what do you have to say about the Steam version? The mobile version sounds interesting for sure.
Mobile version is wild. It's got a couple different, like 2 different modes. You can like play the original game, and then you can play like a sort of rearranged levels. The Steam version is really good.
Yeah, so what's going on with that?
Okay, well, so actually there's one other version that we need to talk about as well before that.
Oh, the Vita.
There's
a Vita version, right?
There's a Vita version too. I think it's the same thing though.
Oh, okay.
Vita, Steam, PS4. I think they're almost all the same. There's one key difference between them. But there's an arcade version too. It came out in the arcades.
Oh, yes.
So they took this PSP game and they made it for the arcade. And what they did was they were like, yo, do you know what makes Darius good? Multiple monitors.
I'll pull up an image of this while you describe it.
So they took 2 16:9 monitors and smashed them next to each other. And so it's just this monstrously long game. And they rearranged the levels so that it's different from most other Darius games. So instead of just being like branching like normal, they kind of have more intended, a bit bigger, 4-player simultaneous co-op, which is nuts. I have never gotten to do that.
I'm pulling up images of the arcade machine. It looks absolutely crazy.
It's yeah, I've never seen it, but I've seen pictures of it.
Yeah, me too.
It's huge. It's huge. Yeah, 4 people. I mean, it's like a bar, right?
Yes.
Like, it's giant. And yeah, so it has its own sort of special rearranged levels. And then the Steam version is that game. And so the Steam version in particular, you have the option, if you have a dual monitor setup, you can actually play it on 2 monitors, which is really
That's
nice.
cool. Yeah, I've heard about people doing that.
Yeah, I've done it. It's okay. You know, your monitors don't connect perfectly, so there's a gap. And you know, it's like on my monitor. My monitors have pretty thin
bezels,
pretty thin gaps in them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, bezels. Yeah, they have pretty thin bezels. But even still, it's like an inch in total because you got both of them next to each other. And you know, that's about the size of your ship, so it's a little jarring to see your ship jump like an entire.
I'm wondering if there's a way to fix that. Maybe if you lined one up behind the other or something.
Yeah, you could do that. You'd still have however much of that bezel is there, but it's not perfect. But you also have the option to, you know, play at letterbox, which is how the PS4 and PS Vita versions work.
Right.
But so all 3 of those versions. So that version is called Darius Burst Chronicle Saviors.
That's it. Yeah, there you go.
I think. Yeah. And so that has the Chronicle Saviors mode, which is awesome. It's totally redone. Totally new levels. It's not like it's less like a single arcade game and more like a story mode where you play specific levels. But all of the levels have been totally redone for the 16:9 aspect ratio. So they fill the entire screen, and there's new music for them, and it's just really good. It's like there's good levels, and it's just really fun, and they all fit your screen perfectly. And then there's also, I think there's also an event mode. No, not event mode. Yeah. Is there? No, you can't play the events on this. Just thousands of different levels to liberate is what they call it. It's kind of crazy.
We dropped out a little bit for a second there. Sorry about that.
Oh.
You're saying it has a ton of different... You left off on the modes you were talking about there, where you said there was 1,000 different things you could do with one of the modes.
Yeah, so Chronicle mode has like thousands of different levels that you can play sort of cooperatively with other people online. Not like at the same time, but it's like your ultimate goal is to liberate, is what they call it.
Oh,
all of these different levels. And so once you liberate it, your name gets put down forever. It'll say like, you know, Bofner liberated this area.
Interesting.
And then like people can compete for high scores on those liberated zones, and it's kind of wild.
Are the levels like randomly generated, or are they just literally made thousands of levels?
I can't imagine I mean, maybe they did. My guess is they have some. I would think they have some tool where they can like pick certain parts of a level to throw in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I mean, sometimes it's not just like a level. Sometimes it's a chain of levels. So maybe like some of them might be like repeats. It's not like thousands of wildly different levels. There's not that many bosses in Darius Burst. There might be more bosses in Darius Gaiden. I might be wrong about that, but there's not that many. A lot of them are just like, they'll rename them, but they're the same enemy with like just more difficult patterns, but not even like different patterns. They're just kind of the same, but there's more bullets. Sometimes. I haven't gotten. So there's two. So there's there's like original mode and then there's EX mode as well. And so that has like easy, normal, hard on original mode. You get to pick 3 different starting stages and then go through the branching paths. And then EX mode has, expert, super expert, and mega expert. I don't remember what they're called. Those are really hard. Those levels are really difficult.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah, I've seen some super plays. The game looks tough.
The first one, yeah. So it can the normal mode is pretty not too bad, even just like going down the hard path. But like EX mode is really challenging.
And isn't there a ton of different DLC? And one of them that I always see is like the Death Smiles DLC. Every time I'm like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, there's a ton of DLC. I only have a couple of them. I have the Space Harrier one.
Oh, nice.
You can, like, play as Space Harrier. And one thing those games do really well is audio design. They just like pull the music from all these different games, and they'll like make the Space Harrier levels are like based off of actual Space Harrier levels. And so like they have the music, and then like the boss that they pick is like reminiscent of one of the bosses in that game. It's kind of like how Smash Ultimate has like those
I can
modes
see that.
where you fight the soul of a character that's not in Smash, and they just like give one that is with an item in a certain color.
Right.
It's kind of like that.
I'm always curious. So in the Death Smiles DLC, I'm assuming you're playing as like a Death Smiles character or something, right?
I would assume. I've never played Death Smiles, and I don't have the DLC for it.
Oh,
but
chat.
I would think so.
Way in here, chat. But I would assume because every time I look up Death Smiles, that's one of the things that come up is like, oh, Death Smiles for Darius.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I've also have like the sidearms special one. I only got that because I had just like ordered it it's like a PC Engine game. I didn't really like the PC Engine game though, so I haven't actually played that DLC.
Oh, you play as Windia from Death Smiles. Nice.
Ah.
All right, so before we close out our discussion on the Darius series, I want to get your thoughts on quickly on the Darius collections that come out from M2, and then also what your ranking for the Darius series is, as far as what your favorite ones in the series are to your least favorite ones. So what do you think of the new there's like 2 versions. There's the Darius Cosmic Collection, which I reviewed back when I wrote reviews for Nintendo Life, and then there was the newest one that came out, which is like Cosmic Revelation, which has G Darius included. Is that right?
Yeah, G Darius and Darius Burst. Yeah.
Oh, Darius Burst is in there too.
Darius Burst AC plus and something like that.
Is that the same game that's on Steam, or is that the PSP game?
It's this arcade game with some new events event mode in general. So it doesn't have the Chronicle Saviors mode that the PC has that is actually fit to play on 16:9. So it just has the letterboxed game.
Oh, okay.
But it does have another ship that was only in Chronicle Saviors that you couldn't play in the arcade version that you can now play in the arcade version.
They threw it in there.
So it's like so many just like subtle differences between all these versions of
I
the
know.
Game.
It's like you need to I can't remember what it was, but like you need to make a little like chart like of what Darius to buy and where.
Even then it's like a giant chart.
So Cosmic Collection has Darius 1, a bunch of versions of Darius 1, Darius 2, a bunch of versions of Darius 2, Darius Twin, and Darius Gaiden. Am I missing anything?
So yeah, that's if you got the special edition, or if you got both of the Cosmic Collection things. Darius Force / Supernova as well, which I'm not as familiar with. It's kind of cool though. It has like you can like choose to have your bombs be lasers instead. Or you can also like choose to focus your firepower in front of you and have a more powerful like main attack, or you can like focus your bombs or lasers to be more powerful in like a split second. So like you just like push a button and like it'll shift which one's stronger, which is kind of cool. but it has checkpoints like the first one I had, where if you die, you get sent back and you lose everything. And I don't know. I just don't like it that much. I haven't played that much of it though. It's really hard.
Right. And so I definitely recommended at least the arcade version of Cosmic Collection, because you get the big hitters there. In your opinion, are there any other versions of Cosmic Collection that you should be looking into or that are necessary?
So.
Oh, I think I found the freaking chart.
Play, yeah.
Oh, it's in Japanese. Sorry, we dropped again. Damn it.
We dropped? Okay.
Yeah. But you were just getting to your recommendation, and in the meantime, I found the buying chart, which shows the different versions.
So yeah, that's perfect.
So we got I was saying, arcade, console, and then collectors. Those look like the three versions.
Just everything. Yeah.
Yes. So what is your recommendation?
Yes. So I would say, if you want to get into Darius, I would go with the arcade version, because Darius Gaiden is, I think, the most approachable, best Darius game. And honestly, Darius Gaiden alone is probably worth the price of the arcade version. The arcade version is also a little cheaper than the console version.
That's right.
The arcade games are also good of the originals, but if you already have Darius Gaiden or something, or you're not interested in playing it for some reason, and you want to play Darius 1 and 2, and you're not like an arcade purist, I would suggest probably getting the consumer edition, the console edition, because I think the ports of Darius 2 and 1 are better than the actual arcade games they're based off of. That's just my opinion, but I think they're easier and more approachable.
On what console? On the Mega Drive or on the Saturn?
So in the Cosmic Collection, they have the Genesis version of Darius 2 is really good.
Yeah. And
the PC Engine version, or TurboGrafx, I think it's PC Engine. The same thing.
Yeah.
That version of the original Darius is really good.
Okay.
It's actually easier than that Genesis version that I was praising earlier.
Right.
But it does have some vertical screen scroll that people don't like, but it's just a little bit. It's really not. I don't know. It doesn't bother me at all. And it's a bit slower paced.
And the console one doesn't have Darius Gaiden at all, or does it? No, it doesn't.
Doesn't have Darius Gaiden at all. Otherwise, I would probably just suggest that one, because I like the Darius 1 and 2 versions on the console version better than I like the arcade versions. So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Depends what you want to play.
Yeah, so for me, I would just say get the arcade, but you're saying that the console versions are actually pretty good. So
I think so, yeah.
Maybe
I think if you're on the fence about it, just get the arcade version, because Darius Gaiden is more than likely going to be the game from that collection that you'll play the most.
That stands out. I think so too. Yeah.
It's also cheaper. It's like $20 cheaper or something.
Right.
The arcade version.
Yeah, and the this collection has save states. It has really responsive input lag. It has nice auto fire settings, replays. I mean, they did a good job. It kind of annoys me how they limited the amount of save states you have to be kind of low.
It's only like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Oh, save states? No, actually you can go to different pages now. I think they
they added that?
Increased it. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so originally it didn't have many.
You can get more. I think it was 6 initially.
Yeah, it was something like barely any. So that's cool. That's a good. Maybe they read my review and they're like, you know what, Mark's right. We need to add more save state slots.
They might have.
So, tell me a little bit about then your tier list, your definitive list of what Darius games are your favorites, and I'll give you mine, which is a little less comprehensive.
Yeah, definitely Darius Gaiden at the top. If I had to pick and be really, like, if we're getting like real nitty gritty,
yeah, get real nitty gritty.
The Saturn version of Darius Gaiden is my favorite. And then I'm not going to go through every different version of every game.
No, just your top 5.
That would be a lot of...
Your top 5.
Darius Gaiden, definitely on the top, the Saturn version. After that, probably Darius on the Darius Extra on the Genesis, the Darius 1 arcade port to the Genesis physical cart. That one's awesome. If you're interested in getting that one, I think you can still get it on strictly limited games. They haven't shipped yet, at least.
Oh, interesting.
They'll be shipping like American cartridges. I have the Japanese cartridge. I think it's plugged in right now to my.
So they like remade the cartridge?
Well, they didn't remake it. It never
like
existed.
reprinted.
The game came out in 2019 for the Genesis Mini. So this is the first time it's ever existed.
Okay, so it came out exclusively on the Genesis Mini, and then that's interesting. And then they made a cartridge of it.
And then Taito was like, let's make it for real, yeah.
That's cool.
Which is nuts.
That's pretty cool.
That one is, it's very difficult. It's quite a difficult version of the original Darius, but I think it's the best one. Then I would probably say Super Darius 2 on the PC Engine CD, because the music is just super different from the original one in a good way, I think. Some people don't like the music, but also it just kind of balances Darius 2 in a way that I find to be more approachable. And then oh well, actually no, I'm gonna have to put G Darius before that. Okay. G Darius I like a little bit more than that. So G Darius is awesome. G Darius HD specifically, because that version is just so good with all the extra features you get. Plus it comes with the original G Darius.
And it probably has save states and stuff like that too. It's
got save states, yeah. It's got save states, replays. Replays are a little limited. I think you can only it only saves your replays of your like high scores, so it's not as versatile as the Cosmic Collection version.
Right.
But so then Super Darius, and then Super Darius 2, and then I don't know. None of the others like I love like I do these other ones. So probably because it's mostly just picking from different ports of the other games, or like
right.
Darius Twin, which I don't love. So I would probably say like
or the Chronicle Burst ones.
Oh yeah, Chronicles. Yeah, Chronicle. Yeah, I guess I'd probably put the Steam version of Darius Burst. I always forget about it. Honestly, I don't love Darius Burst. I think it's fine, but it doesn't. Some people really like that game.
Yeah.
It doesn't hook me the same way that like Darius Gaiden is. Oh yeah, Alex is saying Darius Gaiden Extra, which has it's just like a ROM hack essentially, an official ROM hack.
That's cool.
Where they just kind of switch everything around and add more upgrades you can get. But then there's also, if you like play the game as the second player, you can play alphabetically. So you can play A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, all the way down to Z prime, which is absolutely insane. That would probably be my list. Yeah. So Darius Gaiden, Darius Extra on the Genesis, G Darius, Super Darius 2, Darius Burst, Chronicle Saviors.
Nice. So that's a much more comprehensive list than mine, because again, my experience with the series is much more limited, but I have been playing it, especially in preparation for this episode. So my number one is Darius Gaiden. That's pretty easy. My I would probably favor the arcade version though, because I tend to like the arcade versions better because of the reasons you said, like the rank and the more brutal patterns. And I would assume that that's typically what's used to play for score. And then
almost exclusively.
Yeah. And then after that, I would probably go with Darius 2. I actually like Darius 2 a lot. I was surprised by how much I liked it. Yeah. I did like the Mega Drive version too, but I'm not as much of a sucker for like Genesis Mega Drive graphics and sound as a lot of people are. Yeah. It's a very good version though, and I do like the higher movement speed you're pointing out, so it's definitely up there. But I'd probably, I guess, tie it with the arcade version. And then number 3 I'm gonna give to G Darius for sure. And then after that, where you said it starts to get dicey as far as what other versions of Darius. I haven't played Chronicle Burst, so I actually don't know my feelings on that. I'd probably enjoy it with the Death Smiles DLC at the very least.
Yeah, so it's also much more about scoring than any other Darius game.
Yeah, so I'll throw it in there for the sake of having the Death Smiles DLC. And then at the very end, I swear, isn't there like a 2-screen version of Darius 1? Like there's some kind of version of Darius 1 that's 2 screens. I swear there's something like that on the.
But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
On the chat, On the Cosmic Collection, I swear there was some sort of like 2-screen version of Darius 1 or something. It would probably be any version of Darius 1 I can find that wasn't the 3-screener. So it could be the version you like that Genesis version. But I swear I played some version of Darius 1 that did not have 3 screens. It was like a 2-screen version of it.
Yeah, the Genesis version is the only one that doesn't have a vertical screen scroll that is one single screen. So if that vertical screen scroll bugs you, I mean, that's the one you should play.
Crane was mentioning, there's a 2-screen version of the arcade. That's the one I like.
That's cool.
I like the 2-screener rather than the 3-screener.
I'd actually like to try that, because that would be pretty fun.
I think it is in the Ultimate Collector Never Say Die version of Cosmic Collection, where they throw in the billion different versions of it. Yeah.
Damn.
All right, everyone. It's hot take time. So let me pull up everyone get your hot take. Whoa, sorry. Let me pull up my little hot take gif. Get your hot takes ready in chat. So this is how we end the show, where the chat gives hot takes and then we respond to their hot takes.
Oh, dope.
So get moving, chat. Give us some hot takes before we end the episode. And I swear I saved my hot take image here.
I have a non-shmup related hot take. It's just that I don't like Super Castlevania 4.
Oh, I'm gonna end up reviewing that. Do you not like it because it's so un-Castlevania-like? Is that why?
I just don't like the multi-directional whipping. I hate the way stairs work.
Oh,
I hate that you can't jump off of stairs. I don't like it. I like that the whip can go limp, but I hate that, like, sometimes it like cancels my whip attack, which is so annoying.
Well, I think what's funny about that game is that it has the most silly jump arc I've ever seen in a game. Like, I've never seen something like that where it's like half controllable. So you do this weird sort of King of Fighters hop, but it's not. It's interesting.
It's a little wonky.
Yeah.
30 hertz auto fire is how true ballers play.
Yeah.
Alex,
I agree. I agree with that, Alex. I'm all about the auto fire.
Yeah, I don't love it, but I would much rather play 30 hertz auto fire than destroy my hand mashing a button.
Well, what's interesting is that some games it doesn't make that much of a difference, but from what I understand with Gaiden, like it makes a big difference, right?
30 hertz auto fire?
Yeah, versus the built-in auto fire, right?
Yeah. You can tear through that game in 30 hertz. But I think it also ruins your rank. It like tears up your rank if you use 30 hertz. Maybe it's not as bad as I think it is.
That's probably how I would play. And in the Cosmic Collection, you can increase the auto
if
fire
you
rate.
want a high score on the leaderboards, you just have to use 30 hertz because that's what everyone else does.
ACX is underrated. What do you think about that? Is that the version on the Cosmic Revelation?
Yeah. I'm probably one of the people that underrates it.
It probably is also underrated because it's like a little less accessible, just having come out, and it's also very confusing because there's so many versions of that game that unless you really carefully follow the Darius series, you're not even gonna understand.
I don't think it's even out in the West yet.
Oh, snap.
I don't think it comes out till this summer, which is soon. I don't think it's released yet.
You have to buy it on Japanese PSN.
Yeah, I got it on like a Japanese Amazon.
Yeah.
I got the physical one.
Any other? Let's see if I missed any other hot takes.
One of them is most shmup players never finish their games. That's probably true for me.
That's
at least.
very true. That's very true. Oh, this is interesting. M. Knight was saying he liked how in ACEX you got a random first stage rather than having the static first stage.
That's nice. That sounds awesome.
It presents an interesting dilemma though. M Night, which
Especially
it's fun.
For scoring.
Yeah, it's fun. It's kind of a fun idea for like people just picking the game up. But I would imagine that if you're playing for score, this is like in Psycho. Psycho has this issue. There is an optimal first stage. So what you need to do is you need to reset over and over until you get the first stage. So I think that's probably why they don't do it. It sounds fun, like in a casual sense, but as far as playing for score, you're just throwing in a real a pain in the butt. Imagine if you were trying to do the high score in the arcade mode. You'd have to like redo the... I guess you'd just play the first stage, whatever it gave you, but optimally you'd have to like reset the credits, which would be kind of silly.
That'd be so annoying.
Oh, you can choose to start between 3 preset ones. Yeah, that's cool then.
Oh, that's nice. Pick the optimal one then.
Yeah. Any other hot takes before we close out? Hurry. Get your keyboard. Technically 6.
Oh yeah.
They don't have to be necessarily Darius hot takes. Maybe I should have clarified that. They just have to be sort of shmupping related hot takes.
A new Darius game, yeah, that would be.
Oh my gosh.
That's not really a hot take, but that'd be cool.
Well, that's a hot take to me because I get nervous with these days. I used to be all about it, but now it makes me nervous because if they botch it and I give it a bad review,
yeah,
it's a nightmare. It's like it's a tough situation with new shmup games that it would depend. Because the hard part about this, chap, is that a lot of the people who made these games, like Darius Gaiden, all the Darius games, I think Taito seemed to have done a better job with this sort of thing, but with like the Darius series or with R-Type, like a lot of those dudes are just not around. I mean, they made the game like 40 years ago. So you're going to have a new team coming in, and people seem to treat studios like, oh no, it's the same dude. He's just been hanging out in the studio for 40 years and he's coming back. Like, a lot of people don't think about like the entire dev team is different. It's like it's basically a new studio. Yes, you have the same logo, but talent-wise, it's a whole new group of people. And so that's the danger of like newer releases, is you have to take that into mind. They could deliver, but they could also not deliver. And I think people get a little bit too caught up in the idea that it's the same studio, so it's like literally the same people, when it most likely is not. Like, that's what I would think about a cave game. So if they announced Mushihime-sama, 3, whatever they want to call it, I would be excited, but I'd have my guard up, being, okay, is Akeda in there programming this, or is this a whole new team? Because it's been a long time. Maybe even they brought people back, time passes in the developer's life. Maybe they're just not as into it as they once were. So that's always my fear with like new sequels to older series, but it would be cool to see another Darius game for sure. I'm just reading over the RTF, the R-Type Final 2 trauma, absolutely. I think that review will haunt this channel for years. Maybe not. I also think people might just move on. Like after the excitement wears off, like all those people that were really upset about my review will probably not be around anymore. Oh, okay. Here's one. I like how M2 did GG Alesti 3 with the compile devs. Yeah, that was really cool. Did you have any thoughts on the new Aleste game?
I haven't played it. The only Aleste game that I've played is I've played 2. I played Musha and I played
that's a good one.
Robo Aleste.
On SNES, yeah. I think if you like Robo Aleste, it's kind of in that vein. I think it's much more in that vein than like a Musha.
I didn't like it.
But then you might not like it. I think it's pretty along those lines.
Yeah, I was curious about that. Game Gear Game Gear less games.
I don't know why they went with the Game Gear other than to show off. I think that's kind of what it is. It's like, you know what?
Yeah.
Because the game is actually much more sophisticated than what you'd normally get on a Game Gear.
Yeah.
And it felt like they were just throwing off like, yeah, we know how to push this hardware to the limit. It is really impressive. I'll give them that. But I would always just recommend get the PS4 version. I don't see people sitting down and like being that into the Game Gear version, but I guess, I mean, it is possible. Because the PS4 version, you can turn off the slowdown. In my opinion, that makes the game much better. Because the Game Gear, it can't quite keep up with the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a master system with more colors, essentially. Is all
right, yeah. So I don't think it can quite keep up with the gameplay as well as the PS4 version where you can just turn off the slowdown. All right, last hot take. Everyone, make it good.
I'm going to sprint to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah. Play it without slowdown for sure. Interesting. So there is no ROM for it. I don't know though, because Mingo, you can, maybe I'm wrong. Can't you buy the physical cartridge for that thing? For the Game Gear? So I'm guessing if you bought the physical cartridge for the Game Gear, you could probably rip it that way, right? I'm guessing. Sora, this is an interesting hot take. I think this is a great hot take to end on. Sora's mentioning that M2 is obnoxious because they don't release their games on Steam. They release it on PC only. Oh, okay, so there is no physical cartridge. I was wrong. Probably for that reason, they probably don't want you to rip the cartridge, which you probably could do pretty easily.
Did I miss the last hot take?
Yes, here's the last hot take. What are your thoughts on the fact that M2 are not releasing their games on Steam, that they release them on PS4 pretty much exclusively these days, and even more exclusively, it seems, just Japanese region only. Like, they're not even putting in the effort to drop them in English anymore. Or if they do, like Ketsui, it takes like 2 years to get Ketsui in English. We still don't have Maho in English. My thoughts on it is, I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I think I have. I have a theory about M2 shot triggers, which is that they probably operate at nearly a loss or at best break even. But this is my theory just based on the interview from the My Life in Gaming and just what I've read and seen. I feel like what's going on is that the people who are on the Shot Triggers team probably are influential within the company itself, but this is like their side project. So, and I think they even said in the My Life in Gaming interview, one of the guys is like, none of this is productive. None of this is like cost effective when they're sitting down and analyzing all these old arcade hardware and like learning to program Game Gear games and all this stuff. Like, none of this is cost effective for the company, but because the members of the Shot Trigger team are probably important within the company of M2 themselves, it's like allowed to exist. But every time they have a budget review, they're like, listen, okay, no, the English release, we don't have money for this. Marketing, we don't have money. Like, M2 does not care about the financial success of these releases at all. And that's my theory on the Shot Triggers team. And that's why I think you see them like slowly retreating away from relevance, where if you look at the earlier releases like Battle Grega, they had like English releases, they had much more marketing, and then as it goes on, they just retreat further and further into just Japanese, PS4 and Switch. So I think that's probably the reason why we're not seeing it on Steam. Is I think it's all budgetary stuff. Like they sit down in the meeting, there's like, no way are you getting this on Steam. We don't have the money for that. You like PS4 bare minimum. And then the player base in Japan, from what I understand, aren't even that active on Steam comparatively, especially probably their target audience of shmup players. Like, there's not a lot of... I think that's the reason why we're not seeing it on Steam, is that there's just no budget for it. I mean, they don't even market the games. Like, I swear at this point, if I market one of their releases, I might I might reach more people than their own marketing team. Like, their marketing team is barely existent. So I think that's why we don't see it on Steam.
Yeah, I think it's easy for me or anyone as like an American who likes shoot 'em ups to be like, man, I wish they'd port this in English to the console that I play on. But you know, at the end of the day, they are a Japanese company, and they're not huge by any means. You know, they're not.
I'm pretty sure
Nintendo.
Shot Triggers is like 4 people. I'm pretty sure that's the whole team, like 4 people maybe.
So they're far from not huge. They're in fact tiny.
Yeah.
So I mean, translating games is I mean, with shoot 'em ups, you know, it's probably not that much work, but it's still some work that you have to do on top of everything else that you have to do. The translating is probably not the hard part. The hard part is probably the
port to Steam.
Getting it overseas, yeah. Even just digitally, you know, it's like, because you can't just quietly put something on. You do need people to know about your product, and when you're already sort of selling to a sort of niche market, you really want everyone in that niche to know about it, and that can be kind of hard. So
yeah,
I can understand
feel like
why
I'm assuming the process of converting it from a PS4 game to a PC game, I'm assuming that's just not plug and play like Game Maker. You go in and just like export Steam, export PC. I'm assuming there's some sort of who knows though, they probably develop it on a PC. I have no idea, but maybe they don't. I don't know. I feel like though the big problem is just the money. The money isn't there. And I'm pretty sure M2 themselves look at the Shot Triggers releases like, okay, go ahead, have your little fun with them, but they don't look at them as like serious commercial products like they do their other products they work on. Because sales wise, I wish we could get more info on the sales, but I bet these things hardly sell in the grand scheme of things. Like, they're basically nothing.
And then Alex made a good point too.
All the time and effort they put into these releases, I'm sure that if it's not at a loss, it's close. I don't think they're making any money on the M2 Shot Triggers ports at all.
Yeah. Oh, one crazy thing. They're actually adding G Darius version 2 to G Darius HD in an update soon. Which
that's
is like
cool.
a revised version with, I think it's harder and with like different, I think things are switched around or something. That's M2. Which is that's exciting. That's pretty cool.
Okay. Anyone, any other final thoughts you want to share, Bofner? Of course, I want to say thanks everyone for tuning in, and definitely check out Bofner's channel. It's a favorite of mine, and I want more people to tune in and give you a shot, because you make great videos. And when you're in that initial stage, I'm barely out of the initial stage. It's like pushing a rock uphill, because YouTube is not in your favor, especially with shmups. I always like to say shmups is like the hard mode of YouTubing. Like, it's way harder to be a shmup YouTuber than like a retro gaming YouTuber, just because the niche is so small, and then it's just YouTube doesn't like it. Like it just it's not favored in the YouTube eyes. So
I got lucky with some of mine, because the other thing is no one makes shmup videos much, so like mine are like the only ones on like Darius, Cosmic Collection, and Revelation. Revelation hasn't even come out here yet, but I have it, so I made a video on it. So like those ones do like surprisingly, those are like the ones that pull views for me. But yeah, I do stuff that's not shmup related as well.
Yeah, check it out, and we'll probably have some parallel content, it sounds like, because I'm going to be covering some Castlevania stuff. You'll be covering some Castlevania stuff.
I just released a Castlevania video today, actually.
So there you go, everyone. Check out his channel. I think if you like the Electric Underground, you'll like his channel. There's no doubt about it. All right, well, thanks so much, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Adios.
Yeah, thanks for having me.